four, three, two, one. Johnny, pay attention. We're starting.
Welcome to Plat Overwatch episode 93, presented by T-Mobile. It's us, the gang. We're back. And there's been a huge amount of news. I mean, there's been a bunch of games beginning the Summer Showdown. And also, there was like news that we missed last week as well. It's been frantic. The pace of everything. It's wild.
The world is moving again. Well, I mean, it was always moving, but now it's moving faster again. Well, it was already.
You sound like a flat earther that just discovered that the Earth is actually rotating, and now you're overcompensating, and you just believe that it was static
Bren
when you
tried to
believed one
talk
thing.
me into this thing where the Earth is like Bren was telling me about something where there's like a monster under the Earth, but like we're kind of like floating in this thing. He was going crazy.
No, that's Terry Pratchett's Discworld. We're on the back of a turtle. That's not Bren's theory.
Bren was telling me about it. Bren was telling me about it.
It sounds like the Kong universe, where they have the monster universe that they can go through the portals to, and there's like the Kong universe where that's where Kong subjugated the Godzilla people.
What?
You guys haven't seen Godzilla versus Kong?
No,
I think that's the same
one.
The same universe that Fast and the Furious exists in, I think.
I would imagine Vin Diesel is a giant hairless ape of sorts, so that could be possible.
What? Sorry, what? The giant apes
pretty much
have
there's like
the
an
dinosaurs.
underworld. Yeah. There's an underworld that you can go through the portal, which is how like all the big Leviathan creatures are destroying humanity in like the Godzilla universe, because they keep going through these portals coming from this like inverse Earth, this inside Earth, and in that Earth, the giant apes of Kong's people, they used to build tools and have a fortress, and they subjugated the other races. And
Are
they
you
were kind of
talking
like
about that one movie with like the mechs in the water and they were killing the lizards? What
First
was
of all,
that?
I told you the movie name. I said it to you. I just said it. You don't have to ask what movie, because I just told you the movie.
Aren't you talking about Pacific Rim or something
Pacific
as well?
Rim, yeah,
that's
it.
not
I am talking
that.
about specifically Godzilla versus Kong, the movie I just said. Like,
Are you in
a
that
minute
movie?
ago.
The King Kong uses tools. That's
He
overpowered.
does. He gets an axe.
That's
Yeah.
overpowered.
No,
That's
he actually still gets his butt clapped a bit by a Mecha Godzilla. So because the thing is, you have to realize Godzilla is a giant fucking lizard that shoots. He has a nuclear reactor. He fucking shoots fusion out
What
of
do you
his
mean
mouth.
he has a nuclear reactor?
His whole like belly is like a giant sun essentially inside of him.
One of those. He's got the thing
cinema.
that Tracer, Tracer has in her chest.
No.
What's it called,
Not
Matt?
even
You're the
close.
lore expert. What does Tracer have in her chest?
Fusion reactor.
No,
No,
she
no,
doesn't.
she doesn't.
That's
No, she
that's what Diva has inside her mech. It's like a chrono stabilizer or something, isn't it? I think that's,
Yes.
yeah.
That's not
he
even
says.
related to fusion. Anyway.
Like he has any
Yeah.
idea what he's talking about. All right. Well, that's absolute nonsense.
Could you imagine though,
dribble.
if she did have the thing that Mecha Godzilla had, and her ultimate was basically like a Moira coalescence, but it just shot like she's T-post and just shot a big laser out of her chest? That'd be kind of awesome.
The chronal
Yeah.
accelerator. There we go. It was pretty
Chronal
close
harness.
to a chronic
Yeah.
stabilizer or whatever I said.
Chronic stabilizer.
That's not too bad. Sure.
Johnny's just he may have muted the call.
I stopped listening when you guys started talking about Kong versus King or whatever the fuck, because I've never seen that movie in my life.
God, you guys are you don't know good cinema.
Yeah, you guys are
Good
boomers.
cinema.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll give it to you. If it was like the 1920s and you're just discovering
1920s. Look at that.
yeah, that's like when the fuck was the first Kong movie or whatever. You know, you had the
I don't know.
Bro,
black
it
and white
wasn't the
movies and the
1920s.
clay and all that. I get that.
With the
But it's
clay.
2021. Let's
Kong vs.
move on.
Godzilla was good.
What do you mean good? Good in how? It's like
It was good. It
Transformers,
was-
but worse.
No, it's way Transformers sucks comparatively. The
How?
Kong vs. Godzilla.
How
I mean,
can
Transformers-
you say based on what? You just said it was good. No. Sorry, Sideshow. I need to hear from Avast. What is good?
Hold on. I have a reputable source here. Rotten Tomatoes. Godzilla vs. Kong has a 91% audience score, and
No.
from the experts, it's got a 75% critic expert. Yeah,
That's
the movie was evidently good.
outrageous.
It's legitimately good. It's like what you'd want out of a fun meme movie, but like actually fun. It was really fun. It didn't hurt your brain too much. They even have a Kong shower scene in the first 10 minutes. of the film.
What?
I
the fuck,
simply
man?
don't understand
No,
what
it's like
that means.
comedy. So it's like supposed to be fun.
No, it's not I mean, it's supposed to be fun, but it's not a comedy movie.
They're not taking themselves seriously. Is what you're
There's
saying.
it's kind of like a movie where like you're there for the power fantasy of seeing.
Can we watch this?
Godzilla
I don't
fight
even know.
King Kong.
Good cutaway.
That's what
Kurt.
it is.
Good cutaway.
Yeah,
That's,
that's
what it's all about.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't the 20s though, right? Because I think the isn't the whole Godzilla stuff and the popularity of it based off the like cultural fear of getting wiped out by nuclear bombs.
1962.
Yeah, I think
So
it was
that's Cold
born
War.
after like Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and it like this cultural fear of devastation and like feeding that into it. The same way that zombie movies have been born out of like pandemic fears and stuff like that in the past. It's very
Well, luckily we
interesting
haven't
looking at
had to do
why
that.
certain horror genres are popular within certain cultures. Anyway, just thought bring us down back to earth there, out of the Godzilla King Kong talk. By the way, Jonathan had his casting debut. Sorry, I'm just going to tickle Jonathan's elbow. You had your casting debut this week. So did Custer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
me
we
and Matt
did,
also
alongside
casted
you.
together.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's crazy is actually Josh and I was the most serious out of the forecasts that Josh did, I think.
Really? Is that what you think? Was that what you came away from that thinking? All you talked about was breadstick bingo. That's all you talked about. That was literally it. Was just the breadsticks bingo card.
Somebody
entire
on
time.
Reddit said that me and you should be we should mandatorily be the duo for every Titans game. We should be like the hometown casters for the Titans. And
They
we
need to
just
bring
talk
on
about
Avast as a
bread.
guest for whenever they actually do get the
Dude,
breadsticks as well.
I want breadsticks so fucking bad, man. I've been fighting with the pizza lawyers.
Could
on
you
Twitter.
imagine how awesome it would be if we had homestands and Vancouver had one? And you know those thunder sticks that people like clap in the crowd? They just had breadstick style thunder sticks, and everybody's just bashing breadsticks in the crowd.
T-shirt cannons just shooting dough out into the audience. Just
It's the greatest. It's the greatest sponsor activation I think that we've ever.
The problem
seen
with
from
it
a team.
is, you get hyped up by the fact that there's this bingo card, right? So in theory, it should be easier because they put stuff like Links are having 3 critical hits on there. But in reality, they just set themselves up for another map 5 failure over and over again where they can't attain the goals. And it's led to serious trust issues with me because I feel like I'm getting there and I'm like, oh yeah, the Titans, this is the day they do it. Maybe they don't win the series, but at least they're going to give us breadsticks. And I go home empty and tired all over again. And I just don't know who to trust anymore. I don't know who to trust anymore. Oh, wait a second. Yes, I do. T-Mobile. T-Mobile is the one to trust. T-Mobile wants to be the best in the world at connecting people to their world. And with so much of our lives these days happening through a wireless connection, nothing but the best will do. We rely on wireless to do almost everything in life, from big deals to everyday connections. So if you can't rely on your network, it can have big issues. That's why you can't just trust this stuff to anyone. T-Mobile is the largest and fastest 5G network in America. With coverage and speed like this, why wouldn't you go with the best around?
It's true.
I loved all the Freudian breadsticks.
You could
in there.
if we brought T-Mobile 5G to like one of those trust things where like you do a trust fall, the 5G would just levitate you as you fell
That's
backwards. You ever see
literally
one of
what the
those?
conspiracy theorists are saying about the COVID vaccine, is that the 5G makes you levitate or some shit. You sound like you need a tinfoil hat on.
I have breaking
No.
news. I have breaking news right at the start of this. We have a roster move here.
All right.
16 seconds ago, the Outlaws have released hydration.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, let's start there then. Why not? Let's go straight for breaking news. It's the most relevant stuff. We haven't seen the Outlaws yet in the Summer Showdown. We also haven't really seen that much of hydration. But considering that we are in a meta where we're seeing a lot of Doomfist, I was kind of hyped to see him.
I feel like he could be valuable to a team. Like we've seen him play so many different things at a high level. Like I feel like he is the type of like emergency bench player niche kind of specialist that like you could
incredibly
actually
niche
get
though.
use from. Yeah. And I feel like though he's kind of been dealt a little bit of a rough draw the last few years though. I mean, going from a DPS player, then forced to basically play Orisa last year.
Yeah, that was
the
tragic.
entire, like, I mean,
He's also played main support. So
he's played Lucio. We've seen him play Lucio. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like he hasn't had the best of luck in terms of finding the
Well,
right spot for him.
What did he say in the announcement about the reasons
It's
why he
just an
left?
announcement from the Outlaws. It just says, as we move into the second half of our season, the Outlaws would like to thank Hydration for his contributions over the past 2 years. We wish you the best as you seek your next challenge. Once an outlaw, always an outlaw.
That is so extraordinarily vague.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't really know, right?
How
I
many
mean, to
players
me,
do
it
they have? Are they
just
freeing up a slot or something?
I mean, they have now. I mean, to me, it just sounds like this is a roster redundancy that they've decided to get rid of potentially. Because what was Hydration's role in this team?
I mean, that is
Farah,
part of why he's
Doom.
been playing tank as well for the Outlaws, because historically, Hydration has been this niche guy, and there's always been like better DPS players ahead of him, even when he was on the Gladiators. It's like you got Surefor, Decay, they didn't have Birdring then, Asher, Silk Thread, like whatever. Like, Hydration realistically only plays like Farah and maybe some Projectile in those
played
lineups,
Doom.
right?
You would
Yeah,
have said
the Doom was
Farah,
good.
Maybe, yeah.
Doom, maybe some. I mean, but even then, you look at like Farah. Dante can play that. Doom, we've seen Happy pick it up.
Or
For
Jake.
the.
Is this
Yeah,
Coach Jake.
Jake.
Making more space for player Jake?
Well, no, you also have KSF on the roster as well, right?
Yeah, he
Yes,
could play
Doom.
Doom, I guess.
Yeah, there's some heroes that he
Yeah.
can play. I mean, yeah, it just seems like there's not really an open spot for him to play on this team. Like,
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think any of us say that like he can't play at an Overwatch League level the heroes he does, but you got Dante and Happy ahead of you
And KSF.
in KSF.
Yeah.
So like, tough, dude. Vancouver
Yeah.
next, you know.
I was gonna say, I was like, a team like Vancouver, he could go in and be
Oh,
like
but
super.
I mean, the
impactful.
Give
thing
it a
is,
fucking
Vancouver's
break,
already
Matt.
not playing their projectile players because Teru hasn't even been playing for them. So then
And-
what? They're
Yeah.
gonna pick up Hydration, not play Hydration?
And also, what you just
Yeah.
talk about the fact that he's had a rough break recently, having to play main tank and stuff,
Send
and you
him
want to
to the
send him to the
Titans.
Titans, bro. There's better ways of getting 50K a year. There literally are better ways.
Yeah, I mean,
that is brutal.
who does he like? I mean, maybe it might be a thing where he takes kind of the rest of the year to and just kind of better more heroes or certain things, right? Is he? Nah, you would. I was like, Boston, but not really. You're not going to play him in a flex position over like a Valentine or probably even Color Hex. Like, yeah, it's a odd situation. You don't exactly know where he could go. It may
Well,
be
yeah.
something where sits it out and
Yeah,
learn some new
I mean,
heroes.
it would make sense if one of his heroes was like extraordinarily meta in the season, and so maybe someone would want to pick him up. But outside of there being a splash of Doomfist recently, it's not like he's a very highly sought after specialist right now. So it
Right.
does seem like he's just going to disappear for a little while, but maybe it was his decision as well. It's so vague from the Outlaws that there's no way
Yeah,
of
we
knowing
don't
until
know
all
yet.
stuff comes out.
I mean, I just
exactly.
think it's his hero pool. I feel like he actually has more to give, but it's just he's been stuck. He's just been owned by the Outlaws roster situation more so. Not even just this year, but years before. Like he wasn't able to play his heroes because they're like, well, you're gonna play main tank, like you're gonna play main support for certain maps. Like Outlaws have never had like an ideal roster to where he's been able to show his stuff, and so I don't know. I think he could still be overall. I think he could still find a home at a team, but I
Yeah.
do feel like he just doesn't fit on Outlaws currently.
Definitely, even like in like 5v5 in Overwatch 2, you know, like I feel like Hydration could be a good player to have in Overwatch League team because
Possibly.
of what he gives you. Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe.
maybe. Honestly, I feel like with Overwatch 2, so much of it is just up in the air. If you're trying to build a roster for Overwatch 2, you're going to give like mad open trials and just the people that you're going to like lock down are the all-stars of the league. But everybody else, it's just like, well, who's actually good at this game?
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, right? I feel like going into that, it's like players like Carpe, Alarm, like players for sure, like your Fletas are going to be like safe. Everybody else is like, okay, let's see how you play type of thing,
Yeah.
right?
I think it is.
Because I feel like there will be such a new influx of players as well that you'll be able to kind of choose from.
There's been a new influx of players in your quick play games as well. If you've been utilizing the most recent crossplay update, that update has gone live. Have any of you been playing with friends, family, etc.? I haven't had a chance to play with my brother yet.
I have not. I know that I think for some console players, I think when you get into PC lobbies, it turns auto aim off. If I believe that's correct. I don't know how that would impact like the console community. I imagine it's probably pretty tough to play without the auto aim against PC players. But I also view this as something that's just more of like a long-term move, right? Like as you kind of move forward and you have more PvE stuff and whatnot, like this will be like an awesome feature. And I think just kind of getting it out now and getting it tested and getting it right is probably important.
Getting it right.
Well,
Crucial.
I don't think they've gotten it right. I don't
Yeah,
think they have.
I think I saw some. There was a few different BattleNet kind of blue posts about like some of the server stuff and all of that, which sounds like it's not really a crossplay issue. It's more of like the global BattleNet change.
Yes.
That that I guess just kind of everything that's happened is a little bit of a casualty of the global BattleNet that they've had to kind of adjust to figure out.
Yeah, and they apparently could only do crossplay with the latest global BattleNet update for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, I imagine the back end is insanely complex, especially when you have a system like BattleNet, which it has worked with regions since the dawn of creating that system. So the engineering ability to make that into a global system, I feel like you would have almost had to build it from the ground up again. I don't know how they managed that.
It's so important though. Like with with any new game, I feel like crossplay. I think we've talked about this before, but like crossplay and like almost like free to play are like the two things you kind of look at as like two of the biggest drivers that I think you kind of have to take a little bit of the craziness at the beginning and obviously work through that. Obviously the negatives, but then crossplay is just a huge positive in the end. I know for Call of Duty, I don't think this affects them because they were already using like a you had to have like an Activision ID, and that's like a global thing, which kind of you attach all of your accounts to, and I imagine BattleNet just becomes like the Blizzard version of that, I guess, but. Yeah, definitely some crazy stuff at the beginning, though.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of the crazy stuff and also some of the stuff that just won't get fixed as well, because there's some like portions of the community that are still gonna be mad even when they fix the bug type of aspects to this. Avast, walk me through it because you were mauled in.
I mean, pretty much I only have one major complaint, and it's the fact that you are now have no control over what region you play in. And you can get auto-filled to another region if you're playing in non-primetime hours. Which to me, I don't know of any current competitive how many competitive matchmaking systems exist where you have simply no control over your region? That you can't just choose.
I don't play enough games, honestly.
Because I can tell you with certainty that of all the ones I've played, you have a region select. So to me, I get that and also it seems disingenuous to imply this. Well, it's crazy in the beginning, right? The game's 5 years old. Overwatch is 5 years old. This is not the beginning of a game, right? We're not dealing with like, some crazy shit happening. Like, to me, I dislike the fact that players do not have control where they play, right? Because it makes it less intuitive, like less user-friendly for no reason. And if the issue there is, well, queue times are bad, because that's what it feels like. It feels like this solution is like, okay, we need this for global, for crossplay, but also because our queues are bad for non-prime regions and for a lot of areas that when non-prime time hours are up, our queue times are really long, in particular for like DPS. Well, my particular thought is instead of smushing people into queues they don't want to play in, and where they have to, where someone that's playing in Europe now is randomly playing in like OCE or North America is playing like, like there's people that are being put in Korea. Custa got put in Korea.
Yeah, I think that was the first day though, and I know they put out a few posts that say that like they've reduced the like parameters of like how high of ping you can get going into games.
I mean, that should just never happen. Like, you should just never be put into a region that's like, you shouldn't get put in the Tokyo region.
It shouldn't be like a ping. It shouldn't be a ping thing. Like, it should be a region thing. That's the number one thing.
Right.
Like, ping is great. Being able to identify what your max ping is also good. I'm perfectly fine with that change.
Have that in the game.
There should just be a region lock. Like, this is your region. You are playing in this region. It doesn't matter if you have long queue times. And if the issue is long queue times for these other smaller regions, you shouldn't force them or other people for major reasons the queues they don't want to be in. you should just into other regions. You should just simply put more incentives there for people to play the game.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you
got to
can't
be
just give
something
people
that
an unoptimal
it's
experience.
got to be something that they probably change in game. I mean, you see here at the top, like the reason you can't switch regions is because they just don't exist anymore. Like it's probably got to be some kind of feature they add in game, whether it's like Valorant where you can pick a server or something like that, or shows what region you're currently playing in or something. I don't know how you'd go about that. I'm sure there's a lot of other work that goes into it, but yeah, there's definitely got to be some kind of fix. I
The
think.
thing for
I mean, when this was
go on, Johnny.
like when this was happening the day off, and everyone was outraged on Twitter, and then articles were being written, and everything was like, "Holy shit, the world is on fire!" I just thought to myself, like, am I going to get upset about this? Like, am I going to get mad?
Have you had
And I
any
just
issues, Johnny?
decided-
Since
I haven't played, and I just decided this is probably a mistake, and it's probably going to get fixed. But I appreciate people like spokesperson, like Avast, speaking up about it, and letting a bit of a fire under their asses to get something going.
But there's two
'cause
issues, right? Like, one is people like Custer accidentally getting put into Korean servers, which you can reduce the parameters so that doesn't happen, right? That seems like a bug. But the thing that people are actually annoyed about that isn't going to get fixed, as far as I can tell, is that people like Oceanic players want to play on Korean servers preferentially because they get better competition. Or some North American players who are on the East Coast want to play West Coast games because they're better.
Or European players want to play on East Coast.
Yeah, or stuff like that, which isn't an option unless you use a VPN. But also, I don't think a VPN is a bad solution to that either. Like, the amount of people that directly want to change their region like that is
probably small, I imagine.
It is a very small percentage. I mean, it just is that most people don't care about playing outside of their region deliberately. And even though a VPN can increase latency in quite a lot of scenarios, I think that is a very common way of doing it. Like, the other option is that they provide an ability within the game to choose which data centers you would like to preferentially be assigned to, but they can't make that an option for everybody publicly, like, available. Otherwise, queue times become 7 hours for everybody because you only want to play on a server where you have 20 ping. Or whatever. The reason that works for Valorant and doesn't work for Overwatch is because everyone plays ranked, which isn't the case in Overwatch. Everyone plays on PC, isn't the case in Overwatch, and the similarity in terms of your monthly active users just gets split across so many different people because people are getting scattered to the winds when they play Overwatch. Not everyone plays ranked, and not everyone plays on PC.
I mean, I've never really kind of seen it in any of the games that I've been involved with, but like, where like European players or players from wherever like voluntarily want to go play on the server with like more ping for like a better game. Like, I guess something that's like, maybe it's like an exclusive problem like with Overwatch, but like, yeah, imagine there's not many Valorant players who are dying to play on, NA
no one would
East
do that
with 100-something ping.
No
Yeah,
one would do that in like. I mean, in TF2, you might do it at non-peak hours as well. That's the only other game where I've seen people do that because it had a tiny player base. So if you wanted to play some competitive and it was late at night in Europe, you'd have to hop on North American servers. Yes. But you would know that the games would kind of blow because you're playing with ridiculous ping. I think it's also just credit to Overwatch's netcode that that's even a thing that people want to do.
Yeah, it's like madness. That players want to opt into a objectively like worse kind of potentially gameplay experience from a ping perspective. Which, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's something for the future. Like, they just don't like. I imagine if I was like a designer, like, would I want my game to like? Would I want my players in Europe to constantly be playing the game at 100-something ping in North America, like weird times? Like, I don't know. You'd probably want them just playing on Europe. But I think for our fan base and player base, that's kind of what they want. So there has to be some kind of solve for it.
I still think it would be nice to have some functionality. I don't know if region selecting is like thing, but isn't it in Valorant where you have like a slider and you can reduce your max ping?
That's CSGO, like as far as I'm aware.
That's CSGO? Yeah. I think that's pretty.
That's a great
neat.
system.
And and like if you're on West Coast and you're like, I really don't want to play on East Coast servers, just like, hey, I'll sit in waiting queue for 5 minutes if I get a 40 ms West Coast server or something, instead of a 91.
I think that's a great system because then also if you're willing to play, see, it doesn't quite solve for the issue of like you deliberately want to play on East Coast servers if you're European or whatever.
It's harder with OCE.
If you slide it up to like 100, then maybe you get put in like, I don't know, Bahrain, and then also you get put in Tokyo and stuff as well, and you're like, well, fuck, this isn't where I intended to go. So in that situation, you really do want to be using a VPN. But yeah, also for Europe, they have been getting put more and more in the Middle Eastern server, where your ping is like 75. But also when you're considering Europe, that also means that a lot of the people are not like used to speaking English all the time as well. So if you get put in like, this would also occur in CSGO, for example, if you get put in like far eastern, not eastern, but like Eastern European servers, you're getting way more people who are speaking Russian there rather than primarily speaking English as you were getting Western European. There's so many different
Call of Duty players don't even want to play from New York to LA or New York to Dallas. It's like it's crazy, but yeah, there's got to be this is a CS, so like the acceptable matchmaking ping. This doesn't solve like the region stuff, but I mean,
I think it's a nice thing to have,
anything.
Yeah,
like it would be a nice thing to have, but it doesn't really solve much of anything.
I think the thing that it solves for is if you are queuing at non-peak hours and you don't want to have a game with 100 ping, you know? Like you're willing to wait. Essentially, that's just a wait slider.
I was going to say, I was like, like I could use that to force West Coast games where I have, 10 ping, right?
But you're also going to then get like 10, 15-minute queues, and you've got to understand that is the trade-off that you're making, which it feels
you could have a suggestion tab or something, You're like, you're looking for a game, and like right below it, it's like, hey, you'd get a game,
Right, I think I see what you're saying, where it's like, like, hey, we have a game ready for you. It's, in the X server. Do you accept or decline or something like that, right?
Well, I don't want to play East Coast games. East Coast games are like the worst, man. So like, I just want to queue West Coast.
Yeah,
it's just how it is.
It also it applies higher.
You just limit your region even more. You don't want to go further out. You just want to go more in.
Yeah.
But I think it's just framed as like, the thing is, the main thing, because overall I don't think I have a problem with, I think that it's a good idea that they brought down the ping. I think it's perfectly fine that there's some like the globalization aspect. I sort of get it because of the crossplay. Like I think I'm more just upset. Like I said, people have to be able to select the region they want to play in for language reasons and for ping reasons and just preferences. And on top of that, there has to be this was framed as like, also when I read the announcement, this was framed as like crossplay and queue time issue. Why they introduced this. Because there are players in non-peak hours or in other regions where queue times were a big issue. Very long queues, like they play DPS in particular. Like you'd be waiting like 30 to 40 minutes to play like DPS, And they're like, well, a part of a solution here is we can put you into a larger region that you don't want to play in. But it's like, well, that to me is not solving the issue. That to me is forcing someone to a queue they don't want to be in, right?
But you're making it
less intuitive.
The solves for that don't come until Overwatch 2. Like if you're an Overwatch player, you've just got to understand they're not going to add a shit ton of new content into the game to help draw players in and increase and decrease queue times until Overwatch 2 or until the lead up to it, because that's what they're doing. That's all the developer resources are going into that right now. So you can't just hope for solutions that are not going to happen, right? You have to live within the current world that you're in, which
I will say that I think one of the most what's the word here? One of the most comfortable, that's not the right word, things about Overwatch compared to other competitive titles, I feel in a way, is that they've so many times in the game's history given you a choice of how to play the game, and you can play it your way, the way you want to. When we look at, the many arcade modes that are available, custom games, you can make your own custom games, you can play Overwatch however you want. There's open queue if you don't like roguelike, because so many people dislike that. There are so many ways to play Overwatch that it's like, oh my god, like there's quick play, and then there's like non-role queue quick play. Like that's unreal. Like what other competitive game gives you so many ways to play the game the way you want to? And I feel like this one is, a bit of a step in the wrong direction in that regard. So I understand why some people are frustrated, because generally we've been treated to an experience where we can play the game however we want to, we can do whatever we want, and now Blizzard says like, hey, we're removing an option for people that prefer to play on East Coast games, if you're European or whatever, to play the game your way with your friends over there, and now we're just gonna do that for you, and you don't have a choice in that regard. So that's where I think that this one is a bit of a miss, and I'd like to see something implemented.
I went to go check, and I mean, I think it's something that it's a whole nother topic, but I would love to see them do in the future is like more incentive for like custom games and not like, kill to grow, and maybe some more of like actually serious type of like custom gameplay, because in the custom game settings, you can actually select the data center that the game runs on.
Yeah.
So, if you had more players who are willing to play custom games, maybe there was some type of way you can, maybe it's not ranked, but maybe you can set some type of like SR parameters of entry to the lobby and kind of have competitive matches in like a custom game type of format. Yeah, almost like scrims, right? But and maybe you can have players from all different regions participating in those. That would be kind of cool,
like a clash system. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, Jonathan's point as to like how many different ways people have to play Overwatch. Each one of those game modes that you listed has a separate queue.
Yes.
So of course queue times are crazy.
Yes.
Like most games
Absolutely.
don't have that many queues. That all of the players are in the same one. Overwatch is wild. They've like
one or two different playlists. I mean,
yeah.
Call of Duty has a million different like ways you can play as well. Call of Duty just has like billions of players though, right?
Yeah,
every year just a new game.
Yeah,
or like
yeah,
Overwatch,
and then as soon as the new game comes out, the old one is dead.
Yeah,
So-
Overwatch right now has quick play. When you go in the arcade, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 different queues for quick play. So that's 8 with the arcade, and then 2 different competitive queues at roll lock and open queue, and the game browser. So like you have so many different.
I mean, I personally don't care for
play.
open queue. I feel like, I understand that, and that's obviously the counter argument. I was like wishing secretly that you wouldn't say that before you said it, because I knew that was like the fallacy or whatever. No, fallacy is not the right word, sorry. But the counter argument could be that if you actually allow people to have the choice to queue East Coast, if you are European, that's still someone queuing for a game, rather than not queuing at all because they're not able to play their experience. So it's not a complete, minus or like +1 or -1, whatever, because you have so many queues, and Overwatch forces you into a way of playing. But actually giving people a choice to play their way might actually add a couple of players who feel inclined to play the game now because they get to do it their way.
I'd love to know how many people it actually affected or impacts.
Yeah, it's not a lot. Look, we're not talking about a lot here. It's the fringe, okay? But I still feel like this is.
It's necessary though. I mean, there's something
like people are going to reminisce about.
Yeah, there's some
when they have that
streamers
choice.
who play in like Europe who want to play on NA servers, right? Because of queue times and whatnot.
It's honestly
so.
the streamers that are the most
always plays.
The streamers are the most
yeah.
instantly identifiable as the people who are affected because they have big audiences, and they also, most of them play at high SR, and a lot of them play at weird times because that's when they want to stream. So
yeah,
their whole audience sees these problems that they wouldn't get, but they see other people getting them. But that still is important because it affects perception. Anyway, let's move on from this. The experimental patch that just got added to the game a couple of days ago, maybe it was like a week ago max, has added some changes to hitscan. Like, there are some other changes there in the patch for sure, but a big one that clearly they're thinking about pretty heavily is an overall nerf to hitscan apart from Widowmaker, I would say. So we've got nerfs with a question mark down here, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it as well. It's a change to the effective damage once you get outside of your range. So your damage fall off, instead of being at 50%, goes all the way down to 30%. So you're essentially tickling people. It's this change right at the top. All of these hit scan rolls, now if you're playing at max range, are only doing 30% damage. So big nerfs for people like McCree or Soldier, I guess, Ash.
I saw a ton of people who are asking for this type of change, like for Overwatch 2. They were like, "Well, no,
Yeah.
no, not now, not now." Like, wait, let us keep doing this until. But like, uh, I feel like this is a good change, probably like long term, especially when you look it through the lens of using one tank eventually. Uh, Soldier 76 and McCree just blasting your Reinhardt at range, like, and just
Yeah.
owning him. It definitely probably needed some type of thing. I think the Widowmaker one, they just they it's like a change they reverted, I believe. I think they changed that a while ago, like ages and ages ago. Uh Now I think if you kind of think about it through this lens on like ruins, she can kill the
Can we scroll down to the
Widow
Widowmaker stage
yeah.
first so that people understand? Because this Widowmaker change is like it's undoing the nerf that you just saw at the top.
Yes.
Essentially, it's like making it irrelevant. But carry on.
Yeah, it's this is about the distance from if everybody's played Widowmaker, like on Ilios Ruins, you kind of look all the way across and you kind of battle that Widow. It kind of reverts it so you can kill that player. But a lot of these other changes are pretty massive. I think the one that's actually kind of interesting too is like 76's tack visor is unaffected by the fall off damage. So maybe that makes tack visor actually somewhat decent. Yeah, I think that's quite interesting that the ability where he can lock on automatically to people has no fall off damage.
Yeah, it makes him crazy effective. I mean, you should be using it to make up for his long range inefficiency, I guess. But I don't know whether you're gonna like. Why would you be running him in the neutral in those scenarios where you would get value out of his ult? Because I don't know. Yeah, there's so much of the game needs to change for Soldier to be viable. Honestly, like we've had just burst hit scan be dominant every time hit scan is in for a long time now. So I don't really see that changing. But if it did, maybe this would be effective.
There's actually a really good video that SI made.
I just put it in the channel. Yeah, I just put it in the Overwatch channel. So
yeah, that's a really good video to actually effectively, because when you look at this, legitimately, it does. I mean, for Widow, it doesn't change nothing because they reverted that. So like, Widow is essentially unchanged. Soldier,
she's almost buffed,
he got
actually.
Yeah, I mean, even
there's actually a graph. I mean, I'll put that in the thing as well.
But overall, I think I agree with Matt that it's a good long-term changes, but that's good changes for Overwatch 2. I don't know. It's a good changes for now, maybe. Is that really what we want? I would say like perhaps.
I mean, I almost think like I actually in favor of kind of like seeing stuff like this probably come in now rather than later, from the standpoint of you kind of train the player base like with this type of like how this is going to be, how it is, right? And like how these heroes feel. It probably also gives them time to say like, okay, with this damage fall off, does like McCree feel really bad? And like maybe there's something else they could like adjust with him to make it feel, better or stronger in a way. So like I think it's like I mentioned, I think it's a good change long term. I think it'll be interesting how players find it in the short term.
You could
I also
see
don't
there
think it's
as well,
going to affect hit scan too much. I'm not going to lie, because the max fall off is where most of the engagements you are not taking those fights as McCree, Ashe, or Soldier at max fall off. Anyways, like
the Ashe one is the most likely of them to be taking those long range battles, because she's used sometimes instead of a Widow, but you still try to take those kind of duels on like the end of Gibraltar or something. But yeah, mostly it's not going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah, and it still won't affect like your interactions with Pharah or Echo because they're already so high up anyways. Like it just, for the most part, legitimately, like this change is interesting. Also, I'm gonna mold. What the fuck is this diva change? Like what? Why would we even bother touching this? It didn't change anything realistically. Like this diva change, this needs to go. I'm tired of this remake change. I think it needs to go. I think it's dumb. I think it's really stupid. Or you should limit Echo being able to remake, because
all right.
I just think it's silly.
All right, before we go to the diva change, let's finish with the hit scan.
Yeah, let's finish hit scan. Let's finish.
I know you saw the clip and it triggered you, and I understand. I understand. Okay, but like what Matt said at the start of the topic as well. I mean, it's what I tweeted out as well, and I think it's really interesting going into Overwatch 2, because essentially what they're trying to do, right, aside from some of these Widowmaker changes, etc., even though it's a little bit, they're trying to reduce the size of the battlefield. You know, how long of a range is Overwatch played on? And I think it's really interesting because when you consider tanks and their abilities, defense matrix, you know, even Winston bubble, all of that stuff, it's to essentially give you more time to engage, to protect your team for a longer period of time, usually to close a gap. Because when you're team fighting, I mean, defense matrix is kind of random. Like, oh, I'm next to my off tank and he has defense matrix and we're 15 seconds into this fight. It's not quite random in like Overwatch League play, but you know, in ranked or whatever. Winston bubbles, when you get it off cooldown, you just push it in team fights, whatever. This is the graph, by the way, talking about the Widowmaker difference. So you can actually see it has more damage on shorter range on the experimental card because the drop off is harder the further away you go. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that the percentage difference is 30% higher when you're at about 85 meters away from your opponent. So you actually deal 195 instead of 150. And then as you go past 92 meters away, that's when it really starts to drop off. And then it's really heavy, like 100 meters away. It's really bad. So that you only deal 90 damage. I think those are headshots as well. Yeah. So, but the point being, in a way, I think it's very interesting how they're trying to make Overwatch 2 now a bit of a brawler. Because I think one of the biggest concerns with 5v5 was that, hey, you know, people are just going to play Widowmaker and they're just going to sit far away and you only have like one tank to deal with them. Well, this is smart change. I like it. I like the direction they're going in here to try to reduce the size of the battlefield a bit more. And hopefully we'll see, you know, more of a brawl going on rather than like strategic, you know, sight lines, playing Counter-Strike around corners and all that.
I also feel like something we didn't really discuss. Like, obviously, this is a huge touch to the hit scans, but this also obviously helps projectile heroes in a way, right? With how strong hit scan heroes have been over the last, you know, few years. You know, your Pharahs, your Genjis aren't really in the meta or really haven't been unless they've been absurdly buffed like Genji last year during the summer showdown. Maybe this kind of starts to close the gap between projectile and hit scan. Maybe that's another goal to try and get some of these heroes on the same playing field. But I think you'll always take consistent damage that is in point and click over, you know, the Genji or the Pharah, right?
This change, I don't think, moves the needle that much, so because unless you're a Pharah and you're shooting from miles away, they are always going to be within effective range anyway. Like you're always, if you're a Genji, you are always going to be within a McCree's effective range when you're fighting him, because otherwise you ain't hitting those shurikens. So
they need to probably buff some of the projectile heroes like across the board. Like, don't put Genji back to where he was last year, but like maybe somewhere in the middle.
Or maybe it's about time you did, huh? Maybe it's about time we gave projectile players some love, right? Because okay, Echo's been overpowered for a while now, but what about our Pharah metas? What about our Genji metas, huh? Look, I'm a projectile stan, okay? Look, I get it. We like Ashe, we like Tracer, we like Widowmaker. I love projectile heroes, and every projectile meta, they just nerf them a month in, and we never get to see these heroes again.
Yeah.
That's right.
Bring back May Doomfist.
It's sick.
May Doom.
Pharah Mercy at like the Timmy level is like probably just like unbelievable still, and then when you buff them, it just becomes like unkillable for
good for Timmys. I wish I was there as our
the silver surfers out there. You know, everybody just trying to
I'm getting
scream
down there.
and get his in. Oh
I'm
yeah,
getting
you're
down
getting
there.
down there quick. Yeah, I mean that is another topic of conversation that I don't.
We don't need to touch on that. Otherwise, I'll get booted off the show. Let's move. What other stuff was in that experimental patch? You wanted to mold about some diva changes.
Oh, the diva,
What was the diva change? I saw that
it was non-existent. It's a non-existent change.
It was enough to Echo.
It's a non-existent change. They reduced it from like 3 to 2.5 meters for the damage radius. Like it's essentially not really a change. Like to me, the call mech was a fun experiment. It should be over. It is time to call it quits. Pack up the laboratory. Dexter's lab is shutting down. The experiment is done.
I like it.
No, this is stupid.
Avast is anti-fun.
This is
I-
really
Anti-fun.
stupid.
The
It's
only
not
time it
fun.
was stupid was with Echo, I think. I think it's
But the
actually
problem is
kind
that
of
whenever
fun.
Echoes, it's still dumb too. It's still dumb because the original stated goal of the change was they wanted to reduce staggers. When have you ever seen this reduce a stagger? Because it's not. You're never gonna get like it's happened like once or
But it's
twice,
funny.
like in very Papige mode. Yeah, it's funny, but it's also just dumb. Like it's just it produces a synergy that shouldn't exist with Echo. Like even though Echo is not full-time meta anymore, but like.
It encourages throwing as well because you have people like Matt who are like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a call back kill."
True,
Oh,
actually,
I
Matt
just
has
go
been
for the
throwing with
backline.
it.
Oh. It's like
What?
so
You were-
trash. It
you were
encourages people to
inting.
throw
You
by
were
trying to get
inting.
call back kills.
You are
Just get
actually
on with
throwing
it.
our Casters to Masters games. You've thrown my SR down to gold, and then you've grinded your... Not even grinded, I want to say. You've been boosted up by Paddock. I don't know whether... I want to check your financial transactions, honestly, because that could be a bannable offense. You've boosted your way up to Masters when it comes to DPS, and then you've played tank, thrown yourself down to fucking Plat and me down to gold,
I don't
input
know,
Casters to Masters.
The only reason I have to be that low on tank is because otherwise I can't queue with you people. Everybody's too low.
Maybe if we won a
too
couple of fucking
terrible.
games, then my SR would go up as well. I only play with you, and you're running around trying to get Diva Remix. And you thought no one had realized because you weren't the one on stream, and then
the
Custer did a
issue
VOD
is-
review and saw you doing it over and over and over again.
No. I mean, the issue is that with you and Bren as the DPS, there needs to be like a big playmaker for the team.
A
So
big playmaker.
I view myself as that playmaker, making the plays with the
Come
remix.
over here.
which team?
Bren, come over here. Bren, come here,
For
because I
which
can't
team? Are
stand
you
for that.
making
I can't fucking
plays
stand for
for
that.
your own team or
the
there?
fuck are you saying, Matt? Like, actually, big playmaker with me and Josh on DPS.
Who isn't a playmaker?
Your voice seems to be okay.
Yeah, it's getting better every single fucking passing day.
He's gonna
I'm
ruin
trying to
it
cook
now,
up a nice
Matt.
little meal. I'm hearing so many fucking papige takes. Avast coming out saying, "Oh, I don't like the Diva remake change. Don't like the remake." Fuck off. You hate fun. Fuck off. Matt
It's
saying
not a
that he
good
needs to
change.
carry.
It's not a
he
good
needs to carry
change,
with his
Bren.
fucking with his mech recall bullshit. What the fuck are you talking about, mate? Did you watch the
trying
custom
to
VOD
make
review?
the
I know you watched the
plays.
custom
I'm
VOD
trying to
review
make the
because you're in his fucking chat. I know you watched
Huh?
it, and we just witnessed you throwing for like 5 minutes straight on Dorado. Shut the fuck up
No,
and
I
sit
didn't.
down.
No, I didn't. I didn't do that. This is ridiculous. I'm being ganged up upon.
Well, moving on.
I love Bren.
Moving on.
You know what? I've asked me and you will queue, and we'll
No, we're not.
pop off.
No, we won't. We will not be doing that. I don't think that's ideal for either
I
of us.
guarantee you, me and Avast as a duo could gain more SR in a month than you and Johnny as a duo.
I disagree.
I
would take that
actually
bet.
do agree with that, but the thing is that I don't want to do it.
I
But I
will.
do
I
agree.
would.
play far and Avast.
You guys
Absolutely
is
take
my
that
mercy
bet.
limit. He
We're,
can be
we're like
my
stuck in a
mercy
house
pocket.
with a
Exactly.
roof above us where it's
We're-
like 4,500.
We're down in the depths. We have so much room to improve.
Yeah.
You're at your peak right now.
No, I'm not. I think I can get higher.
Oh,
Fuck
that's
off.
true. Numerically, I would rather take Josh. No,
Exactly.
actually, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. Never mind.
You still
Never
wouldn't.
mind. Never mind.
If
So,
he's allowed
okay.
to stream it, and you definitely don't.
Okay. Was there anything else in the experimental patch, or can we move on? Let's move
I
on.
guess we can move on. I also, well, quickly, the thing about not being able to generate old charge when you've thrown out your mech, I find that kind of dumb because
Why?
People are already discouraged to use their self-destruct, right? Like in the league, people just use it to get a second life with their mech. I mean, not always, but sometimes. And I feel like discouraging people to use their self-destruct is kind of poor. So
Okay.
no.
All
that
right.
was all. We can, yeah, that was,
All
sorry.
right.
Sorry, Kurt. We can move on.
Overwatch League viewership has been a hot topic among Reddit forever. And
Yeah.
Jon Spector weighed in because I think maybe the impetus from this was this like spreadsheet graph thing that someone posted a while back where they were comparing our viewership. I think it was from like the May Melee, then the June Joust, and then they compared it to the Rainbow Six Grand Finals, and then they compared it to Valorant Masters
TI
Reykjavik,
finals,
which
TI
is a
League of
global
Legends
LAN event.
Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I mean, the stage finals are in some sense comparable to like Valorant Masters or something, but the level of like production is not there anyway.
viewership.
John weighed
across
in further on our viewership, so
Yeah.
we can bring up the post and have a conversation about it as well. This is also coming off the back of last week. I think it was Packing 10 talking about it too, and just saying that he was blaming 222 for some reason, which I couldn't logically follow.
Which was a Papiche. That's a Papiche take. I think I love Packing. I think that was a Papiche take.
I think that was a little bit.
Oh,
Papiche.
it was horrible. Yeah.
I also think like comparing viewership amongst different leagues and games who all have different objectives is like actually just kind of impossible. Like I think it's a good barometer to see kind of like where things are at, but I think it's better, at least from my perspective, to look at like what is Summer Showdown versus, you know, the end of the year or beginning of the year versus end of the year to see like, you know, if people are still, because usually we see like a dip, but like at least I don't even remember what yesterday was, but like it's about the same. Yeah, this is the graph. I think this is the fan posted.
Yeah, this
graph.
is the fan
This
post.
is a fan
Yeah.
posted. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
the Jon Spector one was on Reddit. We can it's
He
linked in the
responded to that
Overwatch
post.
in the Overwatch thing. The Johnny Topicalist had it at the bottom of it as well. But most of the time, what you see with tournaments is like a U shape. They're big at the beginning, they dip in the middle, they peak at the end. That applies for the whole season. Like day one is normally the best, and then the grand finals are normally the either second or the best by the time you get to the end. But also you see like a lot of little U's as well for the stages where people tune in at the beginning, yeah, they get a little bored. Oh, they tune in for the finals at the end as well. So you normally see these like U shapes. So even comparing like to like is not always useful if you don't understand the behavioral stuff behind it as well. So John was talking about some of the stuff here. The most, I mean, first of all, just stating that, yeah, they obviously want to grow more than they currently are at, which of course you do.
Yeah.
One of the conclusions that the Reddit posters were talking about as well is Overwatch is not a tier 1 esport, and that is also, in some sense, fine. Like, you can still exist as an esport without being tier 1. You don't necessarily have to go the way of Heroes of the Storm and just disappear from existence if you're not in the top 5. Esports is getting big enough so that you can still be around even if you're not booming. Which it feels like Overwatch is trying to get to that point where you don't have to compete with fucking League of Legends because it's enormous, but you just have to be at a point where the viewership justifies the amount of money that's being spent, which Overwatch in itself has struggled with for a while, but now, I mean, you know, it's with
But so is every
with
esport. That's not even
exactly with
Yeah, it's
Overwatch
not
2
even
as
an
well. That's
Overwatch
kind of
thing.
where you need to think about it as well and start measuring up.
Because when did the Overwatch, what was first year Overwatch League? 2018.
2018.
I mean, that is, it's at that point it's pretty far from like the launch of the game and the hype of the launch of the game. Like we didn't really you know, Call of Duty every year sees like a huge bump with the new release of the game and just interest in the game in general. Like we didn't really have that with Overwatch, where like Overwatch 2 like could be that, right? Where you think it is, right? We're just bringing more people in. But yeah,
It should
to your
have
point,
an
Josh,
increase in
like,
excitement. But again, it'll probably have like a little U-shaped thing where people are
Yeah, exactly.
incredibly excited at the beginning and then it dies off after a while and maybe it picks back up when you get to like the grand finals of that year or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you just hope you keep some of those people and they stay and become regulars, right?
Yeah. And, you know, I think that Overwatch Esports is doing pretty well for itself considering, because when you actually, you know, and God forbid comparing to other titles, but when you actually consider the other games that, you know, people like to make comparisons to, like League of Legends, I'll say Fortnite here as well, in my example, and even Counter-Strike, like these games became cultural phenomena, like in the way people were growing up, you know, in people's teenage years. Fortnite was obviously like Dogecoin equivalent of video games in like 2019 or 18, whatever it was. Right? Like it barely made sense, but you know, for some reason Fortnite just like poof, and it's like the biggest game on earth, right? Overwatch, I feel like we had a fantastic 5 years with Overwatch, right? But you know, we never broke through to the very, very casual, like mainstream mega. We did for a little bit, but we didn't really maintain that position because it is so hard. I think that when you consider Overwatch esports, you need to consider like the longevity and like what game you're actually talking about and their cultural impact to people, in school or, whatever students, that go about their day-to-day life. And I think that Overwatch 2 gives us an opportunity to perhaps do that once more. Like, a test like, hey, we've grown. Overwatch was very, I don't want to say underdeveloped, but while like we've implemented so many quality of life features, we've upgraded the game in so many ways. Overwatch has found an identity. It feels like we're figuring out Overwatch as we go because we didn't know what it was on release. And so we've upgraded some of the features of the game. We made it a better experience for so many people. And so with Overwatch 2, there's now a chance to see like, hey, look at all the improvements we made, and maybe we can elevate above to some of these games that have had cultural impact the last decade or so. And I feel like with Overwatch esports currently, we got a great product going on, and this is a bit of a copium. Sure, I mean, I work for the broadcast, for Christ's sake, but we're making great improvements. The format is sick this year. I'm having so much fun doing Watchpoint. People are really enjoying it. Yes, you could make the argument that with the move to YouTube, maybe that has reduced viewership because you're not in this Twitch circle, like live stream fails, clips, like whatever. But the same
it
token,
definitely has.
like the quality. Definitely has, yes, absolutely. But we've also had some great quality of life features on YouTube itself. We wouldn't be able to have 4K streaming on Twitch as it stands because their servers doesn't have it at all, right?
Technically, we don't have 4K streaming for YouTube right now either.
Technically, yes, but I'm, we're assuming that's going to get fixed, hopefully as soon as possible.
Because did it break?
They implemented like a new ad feature, and it restricts 4K streaming, whatever. But people love 4K. Like they will immediately post on Reddit saying like, hey, you can really tell the difference between 1080p and 4K, right? So there are like quality of life upgrades like that made possible by YouTube as well. Now, I don't know what the right decision is for the franchise moving forward, but the point being is that we're seeing a lot of growth currently this year, and we're seeing great quality of life to the broadcast, the format, Overwatch League as a whole. The game is evolving. We're moving in the right direction, and all we really need is like a jolt of just like content, hype, and hopefully Overwatch 2 can bring that. Maybe we'll get like a Netflix show, some more cultural significance, some hype going. Like, I'm just saying, like, I think we're in a really good position. So stop focusing on the numbers all of the time and consider, the context behind some of these numbers and why things are the way we are. I'm really happy with Overwatch esports currently. I'm having the time of my life. And yes, it would be fun to be, League of Legends or whatever and have like 1.5 million concurrent viewers. That's not us right now. We should be happy with what we have because it's gone to shit for so many esports titles in the past that are like, honestly, we're in a pretty good position right now.
I mean, most esports titles prior to when Overwatch launched were lasting for like 5-10 years for each
5
title.
years was like the lifespan.
Which
esports lifespan.
Overwatch itself is at before you get to Overwatch 2. So, you're on track as for like the lifespan kind of cycle. But this is, we delved deep into some Overwatch 2 copium there. We want to wind things back a little bit, focus on like the here and now, because you're like speculating a bump in terms of popularity that no one knows is actually going to happen. There's a lot of good reasons to assume that Overwatch 2 is going to be popular, but no one knows.
No, it is. Look, that's just how marketing works, okay?
Well, I don't think it's about the bump. It's about I'm more copium about like, well, we figured out where Overwatch is at, but then we're making Overwatch 2. So where is Overwatch at? Overwatch 2 is a different game. It's not Overwatch. It's a whole different experience. Like, obviously it's still Overwatch, but it's not the game that was like, where are we going to be at, right? So to me, it's more so, what is our goal on this Overwatch League viewership thing? Are we here to make fun of the fact that someone just posted a bunch of random events side by side? And
No. So Jon Spector actually posted something afterwards, which was interesting. Can we bring up the post, Kurt? And
Jon basically talked about how they view the viewership and like what, I guess like you view it on YouTube differently.
You want to read it out?
Something else.
Yeah.
For the audio listeners, do you want to read it out?
So for any audio listeners,
not all of it, but
I already talked about the fact that he said, we're not satisfied even with the growth that we've seen this year. We want to be better and we'll continue working hard to grow. Okay. And then he says, this isn't actually how we track viewership metrics, though, which is stuff like, Overwatch versus Valorant versus Fortnite or whatever. People don't track the viewership necessarily like that. They also don't track peak viewership, even though that's something that esports has been like I don't know who started doing this, but the peak viewership is not used.
I mean,
in
esports
any
is essentially just
traditional
giant
sports
penis
metric.
envy with
Yeah, if you have, if
So-
you are the two games that have the highest peak viewership, you're going to brag about it. It doesn't matter how significant that stat is. If you do that, you're going to brag about it because that's what people do. They brag about their stats.
But I mean, yeah, if you look at how traditional television works, that people don't use peak viewership, they use average minute audience, the average viewership. But also what he's saying here as well is, since the move to YouTube, they've seen a significant proportion of the viewership from VOD views after the live broadcast, due to the fact that they have a global fan base. So they're looking at live +3 and live +7. What that means is it's not just the live viewers that tuned in, but how many unique viewers tuned in the next 3 days and the next 7 days to watch that VOD. The problem with using those, though, is that there is no feasible comparison to any other esport in the world, because no one else uses those metrics, because no one else is on YouTube. No one else sees a sizable proportion of their viewership from VOD views. We don't even know what that means, because there's no...
Technically, I think there are like League and Valorant broadcasts on YouTube, right? But those are a secondary part of their broadcast.
But no one adds them
Twitch.
together. No one says this was our average minute audience +3 from people uploading our VODs to YouTube. When you're talking about like Valorant, for example, random people are uploading the VODs and getting like 200k views. Who the hell knows how many unique viewers there are? It's an incomparable statistic. So maybe it makes sense for the league with the move over to YouTube, but it doesn't help you actually track how successful the league is. You also, no one was tracking this stat when we were on Twitch. How the fuck do you know whether this is more than when we were on Twitch? No one watches Twitch VODs, so you just don't know. Like, it's an apples to oranges comparison. It may make more sense, and you can see there that they say we and our partners typically look at live +3 and live +7. So the sponsors are on board with this for sure, which is fine. That's who brings in the cash at the end of the day. You don't need to justify to random Timmies on Reddit. You need to justify to sponsors. So if they're happy about that, fine. It's eyeballs on the product at the end of the day. But it doesn't help you actually track success.
Yeah. I mean, personally, like, even when I was doing Call of Duty, I never really kind of thought of success as like the viewership. I just thought of like whether like the tournaments were good or like the shows were good and like what we were doing.
That's a nice
good.
privileged position
Well,
for
the
somebody
people
working
that
on a
pay the
product with
money do.
sponsors.
The people that pay the money to put on the tournament do care about that.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, but like I think that's probably something where, I mean, I don't know. Like, as a fan, I've never like tuned into a show and been like, oh, this has X amount of views.
Really? Because I definitely have. That's the only reason I watch League of Legends, is because everyone else is watching. I don't have any interest in League, but because everyone's talking about it and watching about it and there's a buzz, I'll tune in to try and watch Worlds. I don't understand what the fuck is happening.
The reason that like I'll tune into stuff like that is because over time they've built up like a huge brand and cachet around these big events. Like, I'll watch TI all the time. I don't watch any Dota outside of that, but I know TI, I know Worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like, you tune in for those, and I think that's because they've done them for so long and put on such awesome shows for those that you just start to hear about it as you're a fan of other esports,
but like,
right?
do you tune
how do you hear about it? Is because
do you tune into the World of Tanks finals that no one is watching? No, because no one watches them, so they don't talk about them.
Yeah, but I just see on like Twitter, like, it's not like and you know, I mean, I guess you've been around esports for so long, you know that these events kind of pop up. I guess if you're putting yourself in a fan situation where you're not like involved in the industry, yeah, I guess you would just kind of click on whatever has the most views at the time, right?
But those are one and the same, Matt, though. If a bunch of people are talking about it on Twitter, it's because a bunch of people are watching it, and because a bunch of people are involved in it, it's because it's really big.
Time for like Call of Duty has stuff trending on Twitter, but like the viewership isn't like through the roof.
But isn't that tailored to you as well, your Twitter
Not
page?
always. I mean, there are certain communities that are much more vocal on Twitter relative to their viewer base. Like,
true, that's fair.
Like, proportionally.
Yeah.
So I guess that's also what he means. Like, if you tap into a viewer base that's really making a loud noise, then that is the thing that attracts people in as well. But
sorry, go on.
What, Johnny?
No, I was just going to continue reading. Carry on.
No, I was just gonna say as well, like, we're all kind of interested in sports, right? Like, I think all of us are just like drawn into seeing the best of something, and playoffs for other esports is generally an opportunity for us to see the very best of the best compete in that specific game. Like, I don't watch golf, I don't watch tennis, but if people are like, yo, this is the event, this is the Wimbledon, I'm gonna tune into it because I don't really care about tennis. I should watch the Wimbledon because it's like the best tennis players at the grandest event, you know? And I feel like that for other esports as well. Hopefully, you know, we have other esports tuning into us when we have our Overwatch League playoffs. And that's part of why we need to simplify the broadcast, you know, make it easier to watch, easier to follow. Because there are people like that who just tune into Overwatch because it's the playoffs and it's the event, right? So I think that goes for all esports a little bit.
To continue with this thread that was, or the post from Jon Spector, not only the Live +3 and Live +7, but the other big part, the major piece of this that's missing is the performance in China. So I want to dig into this just a little bit as well, because there's two camps here. One camp is the people that always talk about viewership in China and how it's so essential for the product. And the other camp is the one that goes, you can never trust viewership in China. It's all made up. It's all lies. No one's watching. There's never any kind of middle ground between them.
Yeah.
There literally never is. Either people say, ignore everything that comes from China, which is just obviously ridiculous, because if you have an esport that's trying to get success in the most populous country on earth, then you can't ignore everything that comes out of it. That is ridiculous. But the major thing that people need to ignore is the numbers that are given publicly on like Bilibili, for example, because those are not viewership numbers. Those are popularity numbers. And they don't correlate one-to-one with viewers. But presumably wherever Overwatch is getting them from is more accurate. Now, how much more accurate, I don't know. They say verified, but what does that actually mean? I don't know.
What does that mean? What does verified mean in this case? Like, who knows exactly? Like, there's
the other thing as well is that Chinese fans are not valued as highly because they don't spend as much on outside products. That's the same for European fans or fans from Southeast Asia and stuff like that. For most broadcasts, you want North American because they spend a shit ton per person. They have more purchasing power, especially globally. So when you're looking at like different demographics that are important, getting twice the amount of viewership in one country might not actually matter as much because they don't spend as much or they're not as wanted by advertisers because of the data that they don't spend as much. So it's awesome that there were 1.4 million viewers watching live in China for the grand finals last year. Or was that? Yeah, I think that was for the grand finals in 2020.
Yes.
But I don't know whether that's, first of all, reliable, even though they say verified. I don't know how much of that would be reliable, but certainly some enormous portion of viewership is coming from China. And secondly, how important actually is that? Like, are they being able to sell Chinese viewership to sponsors effectively?
Yeah. I don't think that's what people realize is that peak, it's especially prevalent with like CSGO people where like CSGO fans are like, the major had 10 quadrillion viewers, all of them from central Kazakhstan. And it's like, well, the point being also, this is like, you have 10 million viewers and they're literally worthless to you as a TO because you can't turn them into money. How do you turn viewership into money? It's like literally the philosopher's stone of esports. And so far, high viewership is not the solution because high viewership has also created a huge problem of like, we have really big viewership. So obviously the tournament prize pool should be really big. Obviously the production budget should be really big.
Players
obviously all of your talent should be getting paid a lot. Like your player, so the viewership then creates a cascading problem where like you have a huge amount of viewership and you're actually not monetizing this at all. It's literally, you're actually gaining almost worse value by getting high viewership because it's raising the expectations to the point where like you were expected to spend more. And now I'm not saying that's a good pass. I do no, the all access pass is criminal. The fact that it's never come back, criminal. Actually, one of the worst mistakes I think Overwatch League ever made. I think
that's hard to implement. Knowing what went into
it's hard to implement, but also
so
people.
Hard.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that
Twitch
people
all access pass.
People had bought the all access pass as well for like 2 extra years, like the 2020, and then we made a YouTube move.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't think you can buy it for the next year.
I'm not sure I worked either, but I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but I remember people
you could still buy it
move.
up until when the season finished, though. You could still buy it after that season ended.
And then we made a YouTube move. So also, I mean,
feel
like
that happened, of course, that's really bad. But
I mean, I'm not. So obviously, I'm not. But I remember people complaining about it, and I remember talking to people on Twitter, be like, "Oh, don't worry, they're gonna come up with something for all access pass solution on YouTube."
Yeah,
well,
but I don't blame them because the all access pass, knowing what went into that was fucking technologically like difficult and required a lot of stuff, and especially in COVID, like pulling that off, like it's hard. You know, I wish we got that back, but it's difficult. I don't blame them.
Couldn't imagine doing an all access pass with everything that like we went into it with 2 different homestands at like the same time type of thing, like how you would even do
Oh,
that.
I was mad. Blizzard Arena really helped with some of that stuff because
Yeah,
everything
Blizzard
like,
Arena.
you worked like one floor above the arena, and then you had everything going on at the same place at the same time. But yeah, that was a great feature,
MVP.
and hopefully
Yeah.
that was a source of income as well because people really enjoyed it. So
That's what people have got to realize about the YouTube move is that if YouTube was the place to get the money to keep the league running in terms of the broadcast rights sale, then you're gonna go for it. Like,
Yes. Well, it's not just the broadcast rights too. It's the VOD plus. Because also, I'm not here to make some sort of giant copium argument. Like, I don't think Overwatch currently classifies as tier 1 esport. I think that's perfectly fair to say.
Yeah.
I think they're right on the edge of tier 1. I think they're right on the edge. But would I classify it as tier 1? Probably not. No. That's
I don't
not
even
fair
think we're
to
right
it.
on the edge, honestly. I think we're quite firmly in tier 2. I just think that Overwatch 2 has the potential to maybe.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
something.
But we've created a model where we can build some sustainability, and also because of the VOD, the Live plus 3 and the Live plus 7 format, partners, viewership, brands, they care about like VOD formats are you have more ways to monetize them, and when you have a directly tied VOD system to your broadcast, there's also more ways to directly tie that into the deliverables, to what you sell to sponsors. And so people don't realize that like sometimes sustainability is a good thing in esports, and it's partially why franchise exists currently as they are. And I don't think we have to lie to ourselves about where Overwatch is, but we also can still understand there's a lot of positives involved.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of positives, and you're trending in the right direction at the right time. Like, I think the league this year is probably like format wise and broadcast wise, like the best it's been, maybe even since season 1, including season 1.
But that's also because we never got to see homestands. Like, if we had had a year of successful homestands, no one would be saying that this was the best year we've ever had. We'd be saying, what the fuck? There's no homestands.
Yeah,
we just got robbed of the whole core of the league.
I mean, that's one of the things last year that goes so under the radar. Like, the first few homestands were fucking lit last year.
They were great.
At the beginning, like, they were fucking awesome.
Sold out viewership. We never got to see China as well. China would have absolutely blown the fucking tits off people.
We never had an Asia homestand last year. Like,
so much stuff.
Korea would have been insane with that shit as well. Like,
but you have a good product and a new game comes out, and
opportunities.
you can make that jump to the next tier, right? With a ton of interest.
For sure. I just hate the viewership talks because Overwatch as an esport has been tainted by very bad faith, like antagonistic viewership arguments for a really long time.
I mean, it's also, they were all brought up because we started with people trying to talk about it being the NFL of esports.
And
so
also
expectations were
ridiculous
insane.
buy-ins as well. The buy-ins also, I think, are still heinously ridiculous. But
I mean, the longer that you last them, the less that buy-in becomes ridiculous. If you
the less
get,
heinous
like,
that becomes.
huge
Yes,
amounts
true.
of...
And I think we've made a lot of steps as well to bring the expectations in line to where it's a lot more financially stable. Like, I think especially when it comes to like player salaries and stuff and what our solutions there are, because that's player salaries at the start of the league and moving forward. There are some heinous expectations. There still are a bit, but everyone has to realize that player salaries are not sustainable in current esports, including Overwatch League.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a bit salty as well because yes, there's a lot of copium going around the room right now, talking about Overwatch esports. But part of this has been like we've developed the league now for 3-4 years, and we've grown away from the initial impression Overwatch gave itself in esports. Like how it presented itself, the press we gave, and how the Overwatch League was supposed to integrate itself and be a part of the esports ecosystem. But I feel like we've sort of matured in a way. We've grown into our own league. We got our own brand. We've got a great broadcast now. We have our own community, and we've sort of found ourselves in a really comfortable position in the esports ecosystem. But there are still people like poking away at us with like a hot needle, just like giving us crap for what happened in the early days and how we presented ourselves in the early days, and everything was going to be grand, the NFL of esports. Everything was going to be like we're so cool to investors and all that outside world. Now, we've settled down, and we're really comfortable. We like where we are. We got a great broadcast. We got great storylines, all of that going for ourselves.
We went through our teenage years.
We're in our esports 30s now.
Esports 30s, but there are still people just like, fucking Overwatch League. And it's like, come on, just come off it. Have you watched the broadcast for the past 2 years? Like, no.
Okay.
I get tired of that shit because I'm really happy with the Overwatch League currently. And yes, it would be nice to have more viewers, but hopefully that comes with making great broadcast and format changes along the way.
Well, let's move into what actually happened this week. For starters, let's start with some news that rocked us right as we finished our previous episode. The San Francisco Shock. Striker retires and ANS leaves Valorant T1 Academy to rejoin the San Francisco Shock. We also saw the Shock this week, but before we go into their actual performance of the week, where we did see ANS play, what were everyone's initial reactions to this? Because I was amazed that this occurred. This is some... Yeah. This is actually some anime shit.
I was shocked to see Striker go. Not entirely shocked to see ANS come back. I think Striker, he's an all-time top level Overwatch player, right? You think about the players since season 1 and how some of them have retired, have been released. Maybe not as good as they were early on, kind of got passed up by players. Striker was still at just an elite level, right?
Yeah.
And I think we saw him even expand over years to play different things. I think I'm a bit bummed, obviously, that he's gone. Seems like just wants to take a bit of a break. You never know.
Have we heard from him?
No, I think he did.
He made some posts on Twitter just saying he was looking to take a break, and that's
he's looking to take a break. I think ANS coming back will be big for them. I think he's going to need time though to get back up to speed. I don't think you can just kind of.
Well, that's based on the week 1 showing, right, Matt? That take.
I mean, I even think it's before that week. I would have said you can't just leave Valorant practice, load up the Overwatch tournament client and go in there and play.
I think you kind of can if you're ANS, honestly. That guy was the best. He's the best hitscan talent we've seen in the league. And yeah, I think actually I went back to the replay viewer and I watched both of the maps that he played. He was still popping the fuck off. He was insane. Oh, yeah. It's just that the team didn't quite understand what they were doing with that meta. Dude, on an individual basis, this guy's still all there. He's absolutely all there. He could be played in more maps than he's currently been played.
Well, I mean, we've talked about a little bit at length of who was the biggest loss for them in the off season, and it's you talked about Moth. I think ANS was a player they definitely missed early on. Where I think as the year goes on, he's going to have to be the ANS he was to put this team over the top.
Yeah, just quickly on that topic, because I don't want to spend too much on it. But had you asked me before the season what was the biggest impact move, I would have said ANS. But in post, a halfway of a season in, it's probably Moth, to be honest, talking about the Shock, because what Sideshow was talking about, the team has still not kind of figured it out. And I said on the broadcast, actually, I said that even, they lost to the Gladiators, and I was like, I'm not even that mad about it, to be honest. This is fine that they lost to the Gladiators. Gladiators is a really good team, and Shock, they just removed Striker, they added ANS. Now they need some time to integrate ANS into this lineup and figure out who they are. How are they going to flex Glister into this lineup? How much is ANS going to play? I think it's fine that they lost the initial matchup to the Gladiators. I think it's borderline fine the way they closely played the London Spitfire, because this is a team that is now trying to change the way they are ahead of the playoffs, not for the Summer Showdown, but for the playoffs. And this is a major change still. So I'm huffing the copium. I'm on it. But I feel like this is a major change.
Okay, wait. Before we talk about that week 1 performance, though, I just want to get one final question. Okay, is this version of the Shock better? With Striker gone but ANS added, is this version of the Shock better?
Now or long term?
Long term? No, I don't mean right the fuck now. I mean for the rest of the season, because I think it is.
I think it's worse. I think they have a better chance to win with this.
Why is it worse?
Let Matt, you explain your reasoning. I'll explain mine why I think it's worse.
Okay.
I think from what we've seen so far this season, they were never really able to have a hit scan player who was as strong as ANS was in the past, even Striker or Glister trying to play that. I also feel like this solidifies Glister's role in the team. He's able to play the Tracer now. And we saw them play Glister and ANS even with a Tracer Sombra, I believe, on one of the control maps they had really at the beginning of the week. I think it unlocks Glister and gives him an actual spot in this team where I don't think he's gonna be anywhere near the Tracer player of Striker, but I feel like Ons is just such a big upgrade at the other position that I think this gives them a better look.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to Violet McCree is way worse, way worse than Glister Tracer. And if your argument is that like Glister long range hit scan or Striker long range hit scan, Striker couldn't do it because he had the Tracer responsibilities, and Glister wasn't up to it. But the Glister, even if we're just talking about Glister's Tracer has looked way better than Glister hit scan. So I'm all aboard this move. I think that ANS can do big things. Smurf and Glister have been lights out in the games that they've played. It's the rest of the team that's fallen to pieces. But those two have been
stuff, they were
fucking dominating. They're doing like these two-man counter dives and rolling people. I've been so impressed with Glister's Tracer. I think this is good for the team.
I think Tracer is still the single most impactful hero in Overwatch if we have the best Tracer in the world, in my personal opinion. And on top of that, I think that Glister Tracer is really good. I think people were giving me some weird ass takes how like Nero was going to play Tracer for this team over Glister. I don't know why anyone was saying that, but like I know Nero has played Tracer in the past, but like
he played it in preseason for them as well, actually a little bit.
Glister has played Tracer and has looked great on it. I also don't ever think that hitscan was the problem with Shock. I think the problem with Shock is they never understood what their lineup wanted to be. It was not because they couldn't play, like Glister can't play hitscan well. I think Glister would have been a far better hitscan than Striker if they'd played it full time. They just didn't know what to commit to because I feel like the issue with Shock runs deeper than just their DPS lineup, though. It's like, where's their current rotation and also their support lineup and figuring out what is working for them with their supports in the meta, because that's where they're having a lot of issues is with their support lineup and
this does
figuring out their
simplify
overall
things for them,
synergy. It does. It simplifies. But personally, to me, I think Ons is great. I think Ons will bring them some stuff long term and it will simplify their lineup. But I don't think Shock will ever be as good as they were again without Striker. And that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go on, Johnny.
I think that, you know, best case scenario would obviously be to field Striker and Ons pretty much all the time.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It's clear that that wouldn't happen, right? So now you're in this position where, you know, Striker retired and now you have Glister, Ons, Nero, and Tayo, right?
Good old Tayo.
I feel that Ons provides this X factor that Striker gives you on Tracer. So it's pretty much just like a substitution. Like, hey, we want to try trade Striker's X factor ability on Tracer to have that on our long range hit scan instead. I feel like this is something they've been missing all season. I feel like Violet playing McCree is like secondhand proof that Striker couldn't figure it out either. To play that or feel that kind of like play style that they really needed, where in main melee you played really aggressive with your Brigitte and that's how you push forward. And I feel like Ans could probably fill that role better. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to go to the playoffs, right? And the meta is going to change because of some patch, because of something.
Yes,
Something's going to happen, and the meta is going to be all over the place.
Play Doom Genji.
I don't know what it's going to be, right? It's maybe Ans won't even see playtime because of the meta. I feel like currently Ans gives you something tangible that will game over game have immediate impact and be helpful for Shock winning these matches. Whereas before with Striker, Glister, like you didn't know what the goal was. Like, how are you going to win this game? And everything was a little bit up in the air. Like, you were just waiting for someone to pop off on the team. Is Violet going to step up today? Or we're going to rely on Twilight, Bionades, Striker, Tracer? I feel like now, consistently, you can rely on Ans popping the fuck off on hitscan. Because when he peaked, he was the best hitscan player in Overwatch history. Now, I don't think he's the best hitscan player of all time, you know, like looking at all the achievements, all the awards, etc. But at this time when he peaked, the single most influential, impactful hitscan player we've ever seen in Overwatch. And I think that's really something that Shock could need now as they're trying to figure out the rest of their team.
I mean, if they stumble into a Widowmaker, Ashe, McCree, some type of meta that involves one of them, I mean, he's going to be insane.
He is, but it is also easier to shut down a long-range hitscan player than a Tracer player. Tracer is notoriously slippery, right? It's really difficult to build a composition. Like, you have to change a lot of pieces to make it hard for Tracer.
I think we're underestimating Striker's flexibility, too. Like, Striker might not have been the best hitscan in the world, But Striker, when he played Hanzo, when he played Reaper,
Yeah, he was
Oh
great.
yeah,
He was
very,
phenomenal.
very
Really
good player.
I mean,
Like,
also
I would rather have
Striker.
Hans.
Striker is the best player to have retired from Overwatch League, along with Haxal. Like they are up there as the
Yeah.
best, the
Like
absolute.
I just think it's
instant
hard
Hall of
to.
Famers.
It's simply impossible. Much like how it's impossible to replace ANS, it's even more impossible to replace Striker, because there's just no one that has demonstrated that level of tracer proficiency.
I do think though
ever.
that this was Striker's weakest season that he's played so far this year. Now, I'm not saying that he
Sure.
was bad by any means. He absolutely wasn't. But compared to 2019, you have to only take the areas where he was actually fielded, right? Because he didn't play the majority of the season during GOATs. But if you do include like the end of the season where he was playing Reaper, this has been the weaker of his play times. I think this is I think this is okay.
But I think that was a team issue, not because of a Striker issue. I think
Probably.
this Shock in general is struggling, and it's not like a talent problem. So.
Yeah.
So
They could
let's
have
talk
just
about
been
the Shock
asking him to do
struggling.
way too much.
Let's talk about the Shock struggling, right? So this is their week. Week 1, they go 1-1 overall. They managed to claw out a win over the London Spitfire in 5, and they lose in 5 to the Paris. Sorry, not the Paris Eternal. That's that's coming
Gladiators,
later.
yeah.
That's
The
Gladiators.
Gladiators. This was, I mean, that first game of the week, the Shock Gladiators game, was nuts. Two teams with totally different styles, and it was insanely exciting to watch. It had like the playoffs vibe to it, not necessarily because
did.
of the quality or anything, but not the quality because we don't know what comps are good, right? But like the actual the speed that Gladiators were playing at and the speed Shock were trying to react and all of the different factors involved, the Moth rivalry. I loved this game. It was fantastic.
I mean, yeah, this was a sick fucking series. It was great to actually see Kevster in person with the Gladiators now. I think probably a little bit of an underrated thing that he's not going to be playing from Europe on ping there in the room.
It's
with
not
them.
underrated, Matt. Every European person has been speaking about this for the past year.
Well,
Also,
I mean,
they memed about it on Plat chat last week. How everyone's going to talk about it.
I only watch the show when I'm on it, so I mean, I don't go back and watch
Okay.
it that I'm not.
All right.
I'm not featured on. So, I do feel like the Gladiators, they played at such a pace, and I thought Space played like a tremendous series in this one. At least when watching it, he was always in the perfect position. It just feels so weird to go back and look at this one, knowing what happened the rest of the weekend. It's like. I think we can talk about Gladiators Paris, obviously, when we get to there, but I think this was a really good look for the Gladiators in this series, getting a really tough win against a tough opponent, which something we've just kind of been waiting for this team to look like this.
But that's the question is, we just came off talking about the Shock here. Is the Shock actually a tough opponent right now? Because I think they are. I think they're still playing relatively. I think at least in this match, they played relatively well. To me, it was like a week of two different, not two completely different San Franciscos, but they made so many more mistakes in the second game, in my opinion, compared to in this one. In this one,
Yes.
I think most of their problems could be put down to playing mega reactively and always giving Gladiators the like initiation.
The second series that the Shock played was just so up and down. Like the Eichenwald game against London, they basically just spawn camped them with Glister Smurf just in their base the entire time. I mean, they were nasty. I think this just like, I think the Shock, I mean, this is such a bias of what we've seen from the past, but like, I think the Shock will be fine. Like, and then you're like, I don't know about the Gladiators, but like, the Shock do have some big, I think, FD God and everything. I don't even think it's really his fault. I think they've just had so many moving parts with how the metas have just changed so drastically that they haven't been able to get on the same page. Like,
I went back through this game in the replay viewer, and I went back through the London Shock game as well. And two of the people that get the most credit on the Shock, or at least have in previous years, I think looking a bit lost right now as well. Choyobin looks really lost in a lot of these team fights. He's because they're trying to play a defensive style. You have to preempt what the attackers are going to do. So, like, you have to think about what the threats are from the Gladiators there before they happen. There's no use reacting to them as they happen because you're always going to be too late. And it feels like Choi doesn't understand, and this isn't just Choi, this is the whole team. This is like coaching issue, comms issue, and Choi Obin as well. Doesn't understand what the threats are before they happen. Gladiators were getting so many like 3-man dives off, and Choi would be like, oh fuck, and someone's already died by the time he activates his booster to go and peel for them. And normally he's on that like so quickly, but it's because he already knows that that's a threat, so he can react to it instantly. But it feels like the Shock just don't understand the meta well enough right now to play reactively, because it requires knowing what your opponent's going to do before they do it. It just feels like he is lost currently.
Yeah, I feel like this is something I said on the broadcast as well. Costa commented on as well, and I'm pretty sure you said it too now, Avast, on the podcast, that like they're making so many substitutions, man. Like they're just changing up their roster all the time. Like how do you expect to figure out the shot calling and the tempo of this roster when you swap between 2 main tanks every series? You swap around your support line every series. Violet's playing main support for some of it and subbing in Twilight. We love Twilight, by the way. His Bionates are sick still.
Yeah.
And then you're subbing in FD God to play Lucio sometimes, Violet Lucio sometimes. You're swapping around your DPS lineup. I've never seen so many substitutions in my life, dude.
Though, Johnny, is it a product of how this year, I think, with obviously not in the previous tournaments because of hero pools, but May Melee and then here in the Summer Showdown, that like the meta is so map dependent, and they clearly have to make a change at the main tank when they want to play Winston or Reinhardt based stuff.
But that's not sustainable.
Right? No, I
have
don't
to
think
play
it's
around that.
But like I'm just saying, like this is just a year in which you're forced to play so many different things in different situations, at least from what it seems.
I think it is sustainable. Like the main tank swap, I think is fine. I think Smurf and Super are both playing spectacularly right now as well. It's the Violet swaps that are making me mauled, man. He's got GOAT candidacy. This is one of the players that you have right now in this season is playing for like a genuine greatest of all time title. And you're putting him on Lucio and Mercy, where he just looks like he's not just uncomfortable, he's losing you team fights by making bad decisions. The reses he was going for on Eichenwald.
Yeah, Costa was mauling.
The reses he was going for on Eichenwald, awful. The Lucio positioning. Twilight dies in like a crucial team fight at the end because Violet is just off on a flank in Eichenwald Castle. It's like that cannot happen. That simply cannot happen, and it's just ruining Violet's legacy as well.
Why is he in the game if they're gonna play Lucio Mercy? Why? And you're gonna put Twilight in to play the Ana. Why is he in there to even play that? Like that's an FD God role. Like that
it must be comms or something, right? Because it must be something he's adding to the game outside of his play. Because for all the hate that FD God's getting, he's better than Violet at Lucio and Mercy. Please do not give me this, Shock fans who are molding and blaming shit on FD God.
No, it's clear that he has to be doing something in terms of like comms and leadership or just like calling for the team, because even when that's why they fucking had him on McCree, right? They just didn't want to take him out in those situations.
He goes for the res there on Choi Obin and just abandons Nero and
there's
dies.
4 players on the point.
Oh, I mean, that is just like, you can't get away with that, you know? You can't get away with it. It's not. And then, just keeping an eye on that to me is not sustainable. Like as much as people want FD God out, if there's some kind of internal issue with like FD God's calls or team synergy there, work on it by playing him more, not taking him out more. That's not the answer here.
At that point,
this is not the answer.
Just make Twilight the flex support, and then let Violet just learn how to play Lucio, Mercy, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, but that's not a good idea. I mean, that's not a good idea either. I mean, Shocks it's 100% centered around. I think the tank line rotation is not ideal. You obviously don't want to have this, but like when you have the best Winston potentially and the best Reinhardt on the same team, and they both perform well, which they have been, they've both been performing well. I don't think you need to worry about the rotation. I think the DPS lineup was an issue, but now they're stuck. Now they have their lineup. Like they're going to play Glister and Nero almost all the time, except for it's a hitscan map, where then it's going to be like Glister ons. You know, they know what the rotation is going to be here. I mean, you could even make the argument that they could just play Glister ons full time because Glister is a hyperflex and he could just come play on the same map. But like, still, like they know their DPS lineup, their tank lineup's fine. Twilight
the
has
way,
been still very good. So good.
Twilight's flanks like that did get read a couple of times though by London, like Vesto.
Yeah,
not
well, I
Vestola,
mean, because they
sorry,
just copied that from
Alfie.
Glads, because that was the same problem they were having versus Gladiators, is that they kept losing to Onagrenade initiations all the time, which, by the way, points once again to like Choi having some rough moments of like stopping the value and like preemptively finding those threats. Because they just took a lot of the Gladiators playbook against and used it against London here with their Ana setups. But I do think that it's the support lineup here for Shock. And it's not the support lineup as in the players are bad. It's not that. It's the support lineup as in they don't understand their roles. They don't understand the meta, and it's bleeding further into the rest of the team. And
I think this is making Nero look bad
issue
as well. I saw so many mistakes from Nero that were like he's going in when the rest of his team is backing off or something like that, that scream communication issues. Not like Nero just being dumb. I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that is the reason. I mean, I guess it could be like sometimes when you have really bad players, then they just make those kind of mistakes all the time. But for a player of Nero's caliber, it's probably more to do with like the Shock lacking some kind of like player on. I don't really understand, and I have never known with a lot of these teams who the player is that carries through the coach's calls into the game. Like, who is it that makes these like decisive comp swap calls or like when to engage, when to disengage? When you have so many players rotating, that does seem to be something that
Violet
would. I don't know, maybe. That would be unusual,
I think it's a communication clarity thing here as well, because I personally think that FD God also. I don't think FD God has ever been in a situation where he has to be a key commer for a team ever. And now, like Twilight, and you just need so much communication between your backline. Like, especially when you're playing Lucio Ana metas, your Lucio and your Ana have to be joined at the hip in terms of how they understand what is happening on the field, because you are not only enabling your front line, but you are the safe, you are the lifeline for your Ana player. You are the person that's going to keep them alive. You're the person that's going to like peel for them. Especially when tracers are on the field in particular. So there's just some, and I think FD God's playstyle is not helping that. Like, I don't think it's because FD God's bad. It's just he's like Li Gong. He's like a less balanced Li Gong in that he pops the fuck off. He can go pop off, but he has never been.
Are you saying a less balanced Li Gong? I think he's definitely more balanced than Li Gong. I think Li Gong's the epitome of that style. I think FD God is better than Li Gong in terms of like finding those moments to not feed. The times when Li Gong is off, he is like egregious. I haven't seen FD God be like that.
I think it's not so much the feeding. It's not the feeding issue. It's more of he's less synced with his backline issue. It is not about him feeding. It's about more like egregious feeds. Because yes, Li Gong is the master of egregious feeds on a tier 1 team. That is 100% truth. But it's more so, I think FD God is currently less synced with his backline than Li Gong is. And that's currently how I feel when I watch him play, is that he feels less synced. And it could be a variety of different reasons. And it's not, and then once again, it's not FD God being bad. And I don't think the solution is Violet. I don't think the solution is Violet.
Is the solution then like trying to bring in another player?
No, I think the solution is just teaching. It's just finding. Really, they just need to find a consistent roster. They need to play with the consistent roster, and then they need to identify what is going wrong. Like, what are the communication? Because it's 100% communication that is falling apart, and it's on the coaches to identify what communication avenues are falling apart here for them. Is it our initiations? Is it our counter initiations? Is it like when we're in the middle of an ult fight, like when we're about to do it? Like, there are key momentum points in every fight where you can identify what our comm structure is, and what is the information that has to be communicated, and like what goals need to be put forth first. That's like the number one thing that any coach will take forward with the support players, especially support players are having desyncs, is like, where is our desync and at what points in the fight in particular? Like, you can identify inflection points in the fight where your comms are killing you. Your actual understanding of where the fight's happening, what your teammate's position is going to be. And that's what needs to be solved for FD God and Twilight in the backline, or FD God Violet. Right? Or if they want to play Violet like fucking Brigida full time and do like a skewed situation, I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay if they have Violet become the Brigida specialist, but I still think you could get FD God to learn that role perfectly fine. I think FD God has that capability.
Yeah,
I think it's entirely just a coaching issue.
I don't mind running Violet on Brig at all. I think his Brig is perfectly serviceable. I don't think it's quite like Alarm where he moves over to it and he fucking dominates. Violet's very good. I don't think he's the best in North America, but he's very good. That's fine. I just don't want to see him playing Lucio and Mercy for them. I just think that that's the wrong direction to solve this issue.
I will say that communication issues and shot calling and fixing things like this is like among the hardest things to do in Overwatch, because there's no straightforward answer, and especially when you're working with a limited roster like this, and you know what pieces you have, and you're trying to fix this puzzle, you usually need like a big personality change, like someone to step up that hasn't done it prior. Like, I don't know what their shot calling structure is, so I'm not going to make assumptions of like how it could improve or not, but. This actually was one of the main reasons why it went to shit for me when we were on Misfits, because that was a dumpster fire of a team and we couldn't find success, largely part because we just made a bunch of like role substitutions. Like, we have Manhattan, who was a hitscan player, play Diva. We had Nevix play flex support. We had him play flex DPS, flex off tank, because our shot calling, we just couldn't figure it out. I shot called for a little bit on main tank. Sebasai wanted to call on main support, but Sebasai also wanted to play hit scan. And it's like, we had this roster of like good players, but we just couldn't figure out what their identity was. We couldn't figure out the shot calling. We tried for like 6-7 months to figure it out before they ended up making large, player substitutions in the team itself. It's like so hard to figure out shot calling like this. If you lose a player like Moth, now you're really seeing how important Moth was to the Shock and how valuable he is of a player, because he provides this glue that you cannot really find in other players. So it might just be the case that they don't have like that one person or those two people required to build a functional team like this. They have their chess pieces laid out in front of them, and they're going to have to try to make this work. I don't know if they'll be able to. I don't know if they won't be able to, because they know, the personality better of these players, but it's very difficult. And if it doesn't end up working, that's tough luck, because you can't really predict stuff like this. Like, when you pick up Glister, when you pick up FD God, we're sitting here just fucking orgasming in the team previews, just like how sick this team is. But we didn't know. Nobody could foresee that this was going to be the main reason. Well, maybe you could have been like, hey, Moth is really good, like Bren,
Well, no, I think people did wonder whether FD God was the right move, because people
but that was because of play style, mainly, right?
No, I think also about Moth's like leadership skills were one of the big reasons why people were asking, is Moth or ANS a bigger loss to the Shock? But I've never bought it, because they played very well with Twilight and Violet in before. For maps, many maps, they subbed Moth out, and they were still the best team in the world. So it can't just be Moth. Even though Moth is excellent, it can't just be him.
Okay. People made that argument, so I'm not going to dismiss all those people. So people in the comments who are like, hey, I said this, like, I trust you, actually. Because there were people saying that Moth was going to be a huge loss to the team. But I don't think anyone going into the season was like, hey, this is a worse roster. This roster is terrible. They picked up FD God and Glister, because FD God was sick on the Paris Eternal, and everyone rated that guy as like a really sick main support. He was a role star candidate. I think he even was the role star as a main support. People rated that guy so highly. So it made sense, like, hey, Shock, they're just going to get the 3-peat. They're going to be sick, because no one could really, no one really grasped that FD God and Glister, and like, it might have, well, FD God maybe, but like some of these issues now we're seeing with the shot calling, etc., and the teamwork, like, we couldn't really have predicted this. And, either could have the Shock coaching staff, I suppose, to a degree.
Let's follow Moth into talk about the Gladiators for this week as well, because when I saw them play against against the San Francisco Shock, I was so impressed. The stuff that they did in that game was elite. Like, they were playing at an incredibly high tempo. They were always finding the initiation. There were perfect initiations onto the Shock over and over again that it felt like the Shock were not ready for. And Shock are normally a team that can play at that kind of high pace as well. Then, in their first half of their game against Paris Eternal, shitting on them for the first 2 maps, it looks like, okay, this is going to be an easy 3-0, and they get reverse swept, and now Gladiators also have a 1-1 week. So I tweeted saying Gladiators are the best team that we've seen so far. I did say in the rest of the tweet that we haven't seen most of the team, so it doesn't mean that much, but they were the best team we'd seen up until that point, until they weren't. So my question here, and the question in the lower third is, what the fuck happened? How did the Gladiators end up getting reverse swept?
After they went up 2-0, I was like, man, this is looking like the best team of the tournament thus far. Like, they legitimately looked fucking nuts.
They did.
Paris made adjustments like Oni got going to Tracer, and they were losing Shu like almost first every single fight after that, and they never kind of were able to make adjustments to keep him alive. I just view it as like Paris made great changes after going down 0-2, and there was never an answer or response by the Gladiators. They just kept kind of doing the same thing and just trying to brute force their way through it. I think it's a great call by Paris. I thought you saw, Onigod and Naga really step up, and like Khan has always been playing sick, but I feel like the Gladiators needed to make some type of adjustments once they saw this all wasn't working.
Is anyone on board with the Kevster Genji? I don't necessarily mean
I'm
Kevster
not on board
himself.
with either
Just
DPS
Genji.
picks. I'm not on board with either DPS picks.
You don't like the Sombra
I think the
play?
Bird Ring. I think the Bird Ring Sombra is fine, but they needed this was definitely a situation. I feel like this is a team in the like a deer in the headlight situation for Gladiators, where they had a comp that was working, and then they suddenly it was fine against the sedans. If one of those the mighty buck that is Gladiators, if they run out to the street against a little sedan, a little smart car, they'll crunch that bitch in a second. But once they get into the fucking SUV, the Ford F-150, and they're driving them down, they get a much better counter comp for Paris. That deer is going to get turned into mincemeat every single time, and that's they were just staring into the headlights of the Ford F-150 there, of the fucking.
They didn't even try
the Dodge Charger. They didn't swap. They just sat there.
They didn't even try. They didn't even try and swap. They just.
I know, because they were stuck. This is a team. It happens all the time. This is not even a unique Gladiators problem. They were clearly on a comp that was working. Paris made a really good adjustment, and then Gladiators did not know what to do, because they're like, well, this is working before. We got to keep pushing it. And it's actually a tale as old as time with Overwatch and with comps. Like a comp is working, you think it can still work, you keep trying to run it, and you don't make an adjustment. And the Bird Ring Sombra and the Kevster Genji stopped getting value immediately after Paris made these swaps.
And Paris, Paris went through many swaps to try and counter this. They tried bringing back the Moira kind of rush style. They played this with a Diva in place of the Sigma. They played it with McCree Echo. They played it with a Hanzo. And then as soon as they kind of got to this variation of it, and then even this with the Diva in play, it was like the series was over. It was actually crazy. They did actually have an opportunity, though, the Gladiators, to win this. They get this
one fight away.
They get this second point, and they have EMP and Nanoblade, and they're just not able to combo anything.
Yeah, it was the end of Route 66, I felt, that was the tipping point in the series, because they still had opportunities to brute force that Sombra Genji comp and make it work. It has big ultimates. You can eventually power your way through if you really want to whack your head against a brick wall. But then I think they boomed themselves at the end of Route 66. Space tweeted afterwards saying something to that effect, didn't he? I think he tweeted saying that we mentally boomed at the end of Route or something, some words to that effect. And that's what it felt like to me, was just they were whacking their heads against a brick wall, and then they just couldn't come up with an answer for the next two maps. And they mentally crumbled. We lost our minds so bad on Route. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get much more plain than that.
I mean,
honestly.
they literally went all into it, where they swapped Muse to Zarya for the final fight just to have bubble Kevster, because they had no other win conditions, they felt. This is a team that just boot. But Paris, I have to say, Paris played amazing. I have been so fucking impressed with Vestola and Onigod so far.
Vestola has made a big
addition.
difference to this team.
Yeah.
He's a really
I have been
competent
really impressed with Vestola. And then Onigod, Onigod had hype before, and I think he was good. But I think as soon as he got into the Tracer, he saved this map for them, because in the fights previously, he hit the pulse bomb, drew them back when they went for the Nano Blade. He literally just saved this map for them. So he's so big.
I'll coom about Dreeder and Khan then, because this support duo as well is really fucking good. Khan's Bionades this weekend were actually massive. It's like a constant all the time. Hits Kevster here. I don't know if he hit Shu, but all the time. He did this over and over again in the two of the matches. And Dreeder as well, really solid main support. Name a more iconic duo, Paris Eternal Lane, great main supports. Dreeder filling now the shoes here of Neptuno.
Cruz.
This is a good all-around roster. I mean, you gotta say about the Paris Eternal. Also, Avast praising European players. Weird champ. What's going on there, buddy? Have you been subjugated?
First of all, once again, I can still praise European players without without admitting that Europe is necessarily good at Overwatch, right? Those are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Is how I feel.
Okay.
They're not mutually
Aren't
exclusive. But also I think this is Paris playing exceptionally well. I do think that this is I think this was a good week for Europe, but I felt like it was a fluke. Not because for Paris Eternal, because Paris Eternal is sort of my dark horse candidate team, but more so for the London Spitfire. So
Well, I mean, they did also lose in 5. It's not really a fluke. It keeps happening. They keep losing. But
yeah,
you mean in the manner in which they lost? They managed to
the
get it
manner
to
in which they
5.
lost. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This
No, I
this
think
was
Paris
a
is a
very
legit
sad
team.
fight. Such a sad
Yeah.
fight. All
Yeah.
of these engagements were
Uh,
just the inability, the fact you don't swap on the most tightly confined final area of Route 66, where you're just getting no value out of it. You're relying on Kevster to carry. The fact they ran, I was really concerned when they ran Genji even against the Shock on Junkertown. You guys remember that when Kevster pulled it
Yeah.
out and they just got rolled? And I was like, oh, this team still doesn't know what to play. Like, okay, they're getting early success, and they look, okay, the coordination and the style from the Gladiators' aggression is good, but that means diddly squat if you've picked the wrong meta. And it feels like if they keep just playing these aggressive comps and this doesn't end up being what's most powerful, they could be in a world of hurt.
Sombra wasn't good though either.
Can we talk about the Paris Eternal though? I mean, they get to what? They get to 500 this week, right? They get 2 wins. Going into this week coming up, they have the Titans, so they'll get another win there. And then they also have the Shock, which I think will be a really interesting series if they can continue this level of play.
I don't think they
But
can.
they are. You don't think they can?
No, I think the Paris worked well here because Gladiators boomed themselves. They ran into the Paris Eternals defensive comp over and over. Shock don't play some crazy aggro Genji comps. They don't. They play with, in any scenario where you're going to be trying to bunker down against them, the Shock are going to play at that same tempo, except they've also got Super on Rhine or something. They don't stylistically match up well against the Shock. I don't think that it's fair to expect them to win that game.
It's a scenario where they can get a 3-1 tournament qualifier, which pretty much guarantees some knockouts, right? 3-1, you'd be really happy if you're the Paris Eternal being able to make a knockout rounds. I mean, you haven't made one so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, we can jump onto this later topic, actually, about Paris and Boston, who've both gone 2-0 in their opening games.
Yeah.
Because I did want to pose a question to you guys. Do you think either of these teams makes the knockouts? For Paris Eternal, they've just made it to 500. They're 5-5 on the season. They're a little lucky that they could go 6-5, right? Because they have the Vancouver Titans coming out. They're a little lucky that a third of their wins are going to be coming from the Vancouver Titans because they played them in week 1 and again now. but still, they have been impressive outside of that too. Most recently, ever since week 6, the Paris Eternal have been heating up. Is this their tournament? Can they do it?
I think Paris will make Summer Showdown knockouts. I worry that Boston may have a repeat scenario of last tournament where they won the first 2 games and then they lost the next 2 games and then went out in the first round of knockouts. They play Outlaws in the rain coming up next. They do have a week off, but they will play 2 teams that are they lost to Atlanta, Rio in the knockouts of the previous tournament, although a different meta.
Very different.
I think Paris is in a much better spot to finish with one of the higher seeds. Getting a 3-0 against a team like the Titans, right? I know increasing that map count. If they get a 3-0 there, they're looking at a 9-3 map count.
But can they actually make it, Matt? I'm not asking whether they make it to the qualifier.
Hawaii.
Yeah, make it to Hawaii, the actual Summer Showdown. Are we going to get Paris? Because I'm not even sure whether Paris can fly to Hawaii, by the way. I don't know how that would even work. But if they were able to take a boat.
Leave now.
How long would that take even? From Paris to Hawaii on a boat?
It would take
I'll tell ya.
many. I mean, it wasn't the average journey from like Spain to North America. Like, granted, that was with non-modern boats, like 6 months or something. So they could probably do it in like 2 to 3 now.
No, there's no way it still takes 2 to 3 months. Shipping
2 to 3 weeks. 2 to
shipping
3
around
weeks.
the world
Oh,
would be
okay.
impossible.
Okay, there we go.
The fastest one, the fastest monohull made the crossing in 5 days and 2 hours, so they could do it.
Oh,
Okay.
There's if they
the
left
fastest
Sunday,
ever crossing would also
if they
have
left
to include some
Sunday
gamer
night
boys.
on the fastest boat ever. They could make it probably by the start time of the first match.
but that was also probably not like a normal like cruise boat.
No.
It was like a little like boat that just like.
It's a ferry
went
that
really
takes
fast.
2 weeks from the
Uh,
west coast. So
That's not
I
bad.
kind of in Paris. That's like 7 weeks.
Oh, hold on. Google fucked up. When I put it in, the first thing said San Diego to Hawaii. Let's see how long this is. Can you actually book a boat?
I mean, if you booked a boat, you'd have to go through the Panama Canal or the Northwest Passage or something in order to get through to the
To
Pacific
get to
side.
Hawaii, yeah, that's true.
That would be insane. Like, that would take so long. That's not just like going to the East Coast. Anyway, what I want to know here is, I don't give a fuck about how long it'd take them on a fucking sailboat. I want to know who's going to sell me on Paris or Boston actually making it there. Is there a chance for these teams? If you're Avala or Huck, can you start to get excited about your team's prospects?
I feel like Paris Eternal have dark horse potential. Like, they've clearly shown now that they can take down teams like the LA Gladiators if they mess up. I mean, you gotta say that LA Gladiators, they didn't execute the best match in those final maps. They were boomed. Absolutely. That's part of your responsibility as a mid-table team, being able to capitalize on opportunities given to you, just as this one. So when the top teams slip up, whether it's the Shock not figuring out their lineup, whether it's the LA Gladiators not figuring out their compositions, Dallas Fuel not being able to figure out the meta, which they have historically, but you never know with Dallas Fuel.
Yeah.
These kind of teams, when they struggle or have like one issue, if you can capitalize on that, that's awesome. That's what you should be looking for. And I feel like Paris Eternal, they could do that in the Summer Showdown.
I'm going to say they
closer
definitely
threat.
can. They hold the tiebreaker over the Gladiators if the Gladiators go on to finish 3-1 because they beat them. Because they play the Titans, they'll have a very good map differential. They most likely will be in one of the spots where they only need to win one match.
Okay.
In that type of match, it's a fucking coin flip. They don't have matches that last week, so they'd be able to sit back and watch the teams throughout the week and just game plan for one of those two teams at the end.
Having said that, our number 1 and number 2 seeds have never made it to Hawaii, have they? I think it's always it's never been the team that only had to play once that actually won that game. They've always lost it, I think. So it's
still
certainly not given a good chance.
No, but you like your chance there if you're Paris, then Boston trying to battle in and win 2 back-to-back.
Okay.
I think Paris is a decent chance. I really do.
How big is your belief in Boston? If you're looking at the schedule, they're playing against Houston, Atlanta. We have no idea how good those teams are going to be. But are you on the Boston belief train? They came off, I mean, what was honestly a bit of a pounding of a struggling Florida Mayhem. There was a draw in the middle of that, so it wasn't just a clean 3-0. And some of the maps were somewhat close, but Boston quite clearly outclassed their opposition right here. And that's unusual when we're considering the Boston Uprising right now. Is this their stage to like also capitalize in wins over other teams? No.
No.
You're not as big a believer as you are in Paris.
I believe in Paris. I believe in Paris more so. Honestly, I don't think I look at Boston and I see that they played they lost the map to Vancouver Titans, and which is like not the end of the world. Like Titans have taken maps off of decent teams, but also I think it's a worse iteration of Titans currently since they're not playing with Teru at all on May. They've been playing Linkser May, which has been honestly not his hero. If we're going to be nice, not his hero to say the least. So I do think that, and Mayhem look atrocious. They look atrocious. They look really rough.
Can we get the laydown on the Proto Mayhem? Because I casted this match and it was honestly kind of distracting because I'm not good enough of a caster to focus on the game and talk with Josh and whatever at the same time. So I felt a bit lost. But I'd love to hear your outsider perspective on what actually happened in the match.
Well, we haven't finished. We're just finishing the. I will tell you that, but I will say
Boston
I don't believe in
Florida.
Boston.
Okay.
I don't believe in Boston. I think also I just don't think they have it in them. I think they just started out with a really easy stage so far, since Mayhem is currently struggling heavily.
Well, let's talk about
so
Mayhem.
You think it was mostly Florida struggling than Boston playing well? Is what you're saying, kind of.
I think Boston played well. I just think the struggling Florida gave it a much higher impression, because we're assuming Florida is like still a top tier team to beat, and I don't think they've been a top tier team since like Melee.
Well, let's talk about them shitting the bed repeatedly then, because they are currently on a 5-match loss streak, the Mayhem. After going 3-1 and making it to Hawaii for the May Melee, they've now lost 5 regular season matches in a row, and they've gone negative in terms of their win rate for some of the first times in the season. They started positive, and now this massive loss streak. And it's not like they're losing. It's not like they had a tough strength of schedule. Okay, there's some tough teams in there, like Dallas, and maybe you could argue Washington or something as well. But if you scroll back up to that just block of red, you got Toronto and Boston and arguably even Houston are teams that you should absolutely be beating in these scenarios. Even the Washington Justice have looked shaky at times, and you could have argued they had a good opportunity to be able to get wins over. Florida are not doing well right now.
It's no bueno for the Florida Mayhem. It's a team that I almost feel like none of us kind of predicted this or kind of saw it coming, but it seems like once times got tough, they've just kind of crumbled since then. At the first sign of just kind of having some type of adversity, they've just folded everything up and packed it in. I mean, now you go up. Their next games are against the Dallas and Fuel and the Justice. Like, are we looking at an 0-4 stage for the 0-4 tournament for Florida? I think that's a realistic thing you're staring down the barrel of.
That would be a 7-match losing streak as well.
And Josh, their schedule doesn't get easier for the Countdown Cup. They play Atlanta, Boston, Houston, and the Gladiators.
I mean, the thing is that there should be winnable games in there. There should be, but with the quality they've put forward recently, those are not.
No, with the way they've been competing right now, you wouldn't favor them in almost any of those.
All right, so I need a diagnosis from my panel of doctors. I've got a couple of theories, all right? So let me shoot these theories out, see if you agree with them, and propose your own as well. First of all, you've got to look at the one major difference between this year and last year, right? You could also look at Slime and Chris, but I don't think anyone's thinking that would be part of the problem. But correct me if you're wrong. But OG dying first a lot, and also with how much Fate was a leadership figure for every team he's played for, that to me seems like the obvious place to begin. I don't know whether it's a leadership aspect or whether it's the OG aspect as well, but I do know that he's dying first in a lot of these engagements, some because of him and some because of the team. But okay, could be more of a comms issue. The second part of this as well, another theory I want to throw out to you as well, is that Florida were winning a lot of their games last year by DPS diffing their opponents. BQB and Yaki were turding on people. That has not happened in their most recent games. Yaki's had phenomenal moments, but it's not like Yaki and BQB have taken over the games that they've played. BQB actually has been very quiet. So those are my two theories. What do you think about them, and do you have your own about why the Florida Mayhem are on this streak?
I think it's an easy thing to just kind of point to OG, obviously. It's like a new player in the team. I don't think Gargoyle has really performed as well as we've seen from him in the past either. I think it's just kind of that duo. Yeah, I think if you kind of look at his play, and maybe it's just kind of thrown off by the way that OG is playing at times, it's those kind of things go hand in hand. I haven't thought he's been tremendous this year. And yeah, I think Yaki's had his moments, but I don't know if that DPS duo is as explosive as it once was, or maybe they're just not. Maybe they have to put more emphasis on OG because he's harder to keep alive, and it's taking away from the others. It does seem like there's some major issues here, though.
The coordination in that team fight we just watched was appalling.
Oh, were they EMP'd and then nobody was there?
They EMP, to try and get a pulse bomb, and their tanks don't initiate until like 3 seconds after when the hack wears off. Like mad comms issues from the look of it, like crazy levels of it. OG nearly had his primal as well. If he dives in with that EMP, they have an opportunity to just primal and kill them all inside that room. Like, so weird the way that they're playing right now. What do you think, Johnny? I've asked. What's going on here?
Avast, you want to go first?
I think Mayhem have had really poor reads on the meta so far this year overall. I think that's like their first mistake that's happened with them. They're another team that's really struggled to figure out what exactly they want to play. I think I think their coordination around OG has been an issue. I don't know if I want to necessarily say OG is the issue, because it's really hard to find, when it comes to main tank in particular, it's really hard to differentiate where the line becomes like, is your main tank the problem or your overall team structure the problem?
That's fair.
And it's similar to main supports as well, but like there, at least for like the examples that I was bringing up earlier with like FT God on the Shock, there was like more clear reasonings why I had, or Violet, like there's more clear reasonings to see when a support line is having trouble because you're not supporting each other literally, and you're like doing really weird flanks or like off on a weird tangent, right? But I think for Mayhem, it's a meta problem. It's an issue where they're not playing well around their tanks, and I think that's like the primary reason. I don't think it's a talent reason again for this team. This team has all the talent necessary to be good.
Yeah.
And Yaki still pops off, like not as hard as he used to. But like right now, there's only one person. There's maybe two people at times that feel like they're having a very solid, noticeable impact in the game, and it's Gangnam Jin and Yaki.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And so BQB seems like they just all around, they are lost. There's something about them where their coordination is off. They're not playing around their tanks particularly well, and they've had constant misreads on the meta.
What do you mean by this meta misread? Because from what, I mean, the June Joust, what were they even playing? I can't remember. What was Florida?
I mean, if you look at,
they were playing the meta. They were playing the Lucio Moira, weren't they?
They were playing the Lucio Moira early, but then also on top of that, they were never able to. The problem is that they were never able to, like, I feel like they found out what the meta was, but they never realized exactly how they wanted to play it. Because they're like, okay, here's the heroes, right? You can figure out what heroes are meta, but there's very difference in like when you watched how Mayhem played the Rush comp, and then when you compared it to like even Paris or Dallas, and you see how their engages were with their Cole. When you watch where their win conditions were, where they pressured out a tank, right? Like there's always the flow chart Overwatch, as I say, where there's like, you pressure one person, get a cooldown out, you do this, right? So it seems like they didn't understand what the key focal points of like when you're in June Joust, where's the diva pressure? So you can set up your engage, right? So you can move your Echo into a more favorable position. Where is poking some tanks or poking a DPS early so you can take a flank and then get in a better spot to set up your Cole? There's all these sort of little mini steps where Mayhem feel like they weren't understanding, like, and also, of course, still the content of like messing up their timings around their main tank engages and messing up their timings with OG and like when they're engaging, which has been honestly relatively consistent. It's been their work around their main tank.
Right.
So to me, when I look at Mayhem, when I say they misread the meta, I feel like, yeah, it's not always composition. It's also understanding their win conditions.
Okay.
And understanding how they want to play it, right? Though I do feel like this BQB Sombra, I think the Sombra Tracer play is like, this is a comp choice where like Gladiators made the same problem, except they played the Genji, where teams are trying to force the Sombra a lot, but it's not always the right pick. Like, to me, the Sombra makes a lot more sense versus like maybe when you're playing more of a dive team or maybe against an Echo, right? When you're playing against Echo a lot, Sombra can make a lot of sense because Echo's up in the air, so there's less support on the ground. But Mayhem were just trying to force it, and Gladiators trying to force it against all sorts of comps, against shield comps, against hitscan oriented comps, right? Where it's a lot harder for your Sombra to get consistent value because it can get poked away so fast. And it's harder for you to build EMP. It's harder for you to set up neutral hacks. It's harder for you to find like isolation targets. So I think in this particular case, it is a little bit of a comp issue for them because Gladiators made the same exact problem with the Birdwing Sombra versus Paris. So I think that Mayhem right now are just not on the same page. It feels like a worse version of Shock, essentially. They just feel so disjointed. They just feel super, super disjointed, and they don't know what they want to be doing. But they're even less coordinated on their main tank. At least Shock have main tank coordination.
Yes, they have excellent main tank coordination.
All right. I'm gonna continue my storyline of Plat Chat episode 93 and inhale the copium.
Okay. All right.
Here we go. obviously a five match low streak looks really bad, especially on paper, right? If we actually take a look at those matches, yes, they should have beaten the Houston Outlaws in the June Just qualifiers. I mean, that was a winnable match for them, but that's where the compositional difference really made a difference, I'd like to say, because Houston Outlaws, right? They were playing the slower compositions, if you remember. They were playing like Happy Widowmaker, Dreamer was playing Orisa as well. At Florida Mayhem, they were always just trying to up the tempo, playing the Winston, make OG comfortable, etc. And they got full held on Anubis and Eichenwalde, full held to the Jake Junkrat. But apart from that, the two last games of the June Joust were against the Washington Justice with Decay, who were forced to be reckoned with. Okay, that's not the Washington Justice that were poo and just like didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah,
that was the Washington Justice that players around the league were like, holy shit, the Washington Justice are underrated because they're actually like dominating in scrims, which I actually tend to believe based on their performances against the Florida Mayhem and the San Francisco Shock that last week of qualification.
Yeah.
And then they lost to the Dallas Fuel 2-3 in a Lucio Moira mirror. I mean, how close is that? That's Dallas Fuel, and you go to 5 maps playing the Lucio Moira. So that's a pretty good performance, I'd like to say anyway. Now, losing these two matches is inexcusable. The Florida Mayhem should definitely have beaten both of these teams, both the Toronto Defiant and the Boston Uprising. But it's week 1. Hero Pool has just been removed. I'm willing to give them a one-off. Yes, this is really bad, especially for your aspirations of qualifying for the knockout stages for the Summer Showdown. This is going to, make a big impact. I don't think all is lost yet for the Florida Mayhem. I think that they looked pretty good in the main melee. That's where BQB was popping off on the Ash. That's where Yaki made all these big plays. And that was part of why they made it so deep in the main melee playoffs, right? And that kind of catered to their style. I think Florida Mayhem, they still have it. I'm not going to count this roster out yet. If they can, pull their sleeves up. Is that how you say it? Pull their sleeves up. And, no, is that the saying?
Roll their
sleeves up. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Pull the socks up.
I thought about pulling up your bootstraps or something. I don't know.
Pull up your breeches. Pull up your socks.
Pull up your pants.
Something like that. Yeah. As long as you make sure that OG is not like mentally down in the dumpster right now, you can salvage this because OG, he still has the mechanics. Yes, he's not Fate, but BQB still has it. Yaki still has it. You can maybe integrate Checkmate. Didn't have the best performance. Didn't live up to the hype.
Too much checking, not enough mating. I love that line, by the way. That is so good.
He was swinging for the fences and hitting nothing.
I mean, he had a pretty what's the word? It was pretty quiet. It was a very soft performance by Checkmate. I think there's potential there. I really do think that they could potentially integrate Checkmate into like an echo role if they really want to go balls to the wall aggressive like the Gladiators. If to prevent BQB from playing some of the Sombra. What?
Are you working for Florida?
I wish they would pay me money. But I feel like the Florida Mayhem, they could salvage this. I don't think all hope is lost because they're on a 5-match win streak. But these 2 matches, they should have won them. They struggle against Boston Uprising's compositions because Florida Mayhem, they just don't.
I'll give them one pass. They've lost 5 in a row for fuck's sake.
Okay, here we go. Fucking pre and post match history, Andy over here, just looking at results.
Yeah. I'd like to see them lean more into what they were good at in the main melee. I mean, also, when they ran the poke composition with Gangnam Jin on Zen and OG on Ball, that actually looked really good. That looked good
their positioning was really good. They kept alive for a long time.
You can't play that everywhere, though. You can't play that everywhere. It just doesn't work on like half the maps in the pool. But still, if they can lean more into that, then maybe they can find a bit more success.
Can we do an overall NA prediction where they will finish?
Well, where do they need to finish to make final playoffs?
I was just going to say, top 3 are guaranteed for NA. And then there's a playoff of the teams underneath. I can find out how many that is.
Yeah, is it top 6 or top 5 or
somewhere.
something? Like they need to be at least above 500 though, right? And they are not right now. And they look like they're going downwards.
They're in 10th in NA right now.
That's tragic. They're 10th.
Fine.
They're at the bottom. They're only just above London and Vancouver.
It's fine.
They're the worst of the middle of the pack teams by the record right now.
How sick is that? How many teams are on 5 points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do we have 7? No.
That's crazy.
6 teams on 5 points?
Yeah.
That's unreal. This league, man.
Yeah. That
That's
is a lot
safe.
of fun. But at the same time, like, you need to break out of that middle of the pack. And when you look at the teams that are in that middle of the pack, it's Washington and Florida that were expected to get out of there. They are not supposed to be stuck in the middle, in the dregs. And instead they are. I mean, I think their season at this point is a knife's edge away
so
from
in
being
NA
gone.
NA, you would have the 1 through 3 auto qualify, and then 4 through 9 are in the play-in. So 10 through what is it? Is it 13 in NA, right?
No,
Or
10,
12?
10, 11, 12. So, okay, they
Yeah.
will probably make the play-in no matter what. They wouldn't in the current state, but you're probably expecting them to overtake a Toronto or a
Look at their
Boston.
matches
maybe.
in the Countdown Cup.
It's some kind of scenario
Good.
like that. Yeah, no, I mentioned their Countdown Cup. The games they have remaining are Dallas, Washington, Atlanta, Boston, Houston, Gladiators.
No,
Okay,
they're
they're not
fucked.
making it.
They're fucked. They're not making it.
They're kinda fucked.
Move on. Next
They're
topic.
kinda fucked.
Oh
I
my
mean,
god.
they had all their easier games at the beginning. You know, they had their Vancouver, Paris, Toronto.
Yeah, but like they still
London.
have games against Toronto and Boston, don't they? Or is it just Boston and Atlanta or something? They've still got like mega winnable games at the end of their season. It's just they're not winnable anymore, judging by how they're playing.
I mean, what they've played the Outlaws once this season and lost 3-1. They've lost to Dallas. Is it once? Yeah. They lost to the Justice 3-0, and then they beat them in the finals of the
to
first
qualify.
one, Melee. What have they? No, they lost to Boston. I mean, all of the games they have remaining, they haven't beat any of these teams this season.
Yeah, that is
It's
brutal.
cutthroat, man. Holy shit.
And you could see them finish realistically. Like, could they end up finishing? How many more games they have left? They have 6. Could they finish 4-12?
No, there's no way, man. They're not gonna go on a losing streak the entirety of the rest. It's just so unlikely. Also,
That would be what, 2 stages of winless play?
yeah, some of the other teams have also very difficult schedules in the same position as them. People like, well, okay, Houston are not in the same position as them, but they have a very difficult schedule. But also other teams, I would imagine that people like
Atlanta.
Toronto still have a difficult schedule, right? And Atlanta as well. Like those teams
Yeah.
you're kind of hoping that they also fail. That's the only
Yeah.
hope for Mayhem.
Well, look, they just need to get out of the, like, you know, you want to be probably somewhere in that like 6 to 8 range, right?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't
That's,
matter
like,
if you're
your
ninth, though,
ideal.
right? Because you still get into the play-in. Like, what does it matter?
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at it again, but that should be like where the cutoff is,
Okay.
around there.
Well, our final topic from North America this week is returning back to talking about the London Spitfire for a moment, because they added in Sparkr. Or not added, he's always been on the team. He was an original member of the British Hurricane that did so well in contenders. But he finally became eligible. He just turned 18. And he popped off. He looked really fucking good in their game against the Shock, but it wasn't enough to get them their first win. So the question down here as well is, what can Sparkr do? Can Sparkr be the difference maker for London to find their first win of the season? What's the prognosis for this, and how good? What kind of difference did he make?
They're playing Atlanta Reign and Washington Justice next. But let's go back to Sparkr. Yes. The fucking face palm from George, man. It's unbelievable.
If Atlanta play again...
I loved Sparkr, okay? I think it's fun to watch him play. It felt like London Spitfire. They had life to themselves. It feels like, even though you didn't get the wins, it feels really good, because now this 0-10, or the 0-10? 0-10
Yes,
London Spitfire
0-10.
they have an actionable item going into next season. This season's already fucked. It's fucked. You can't do anything.
Won 2 more maps than the Titans.
But they can actually now look at this roster and go, we're keeping Sparkr, because Sparker's sick and we can build around him. Whereas before, it was like, are we doing a wash? Are we going back to Korea? Are we going to pick up like Gen G's academy team or some shit? Because that was the state that was in currently. Now you actually have something going for yourself with Sparkr, whereas I think that this is something you can build off. You can build off Sparkr, being your DPS, and, you know, there's a couple of pieces there on the roster, yeah. This is a breath of fresh air for a struggling Spitfire team.
Malphite was
very
alright this
struggling.
week.
Molfig, I guess
He
he
had a
was
decent
okay.
series here against the Shock. I mean,
Molf
what-
1
when you're-
gallon? He did all right.
When,
Molf
you're
1 gallon
fucking,
did
when you've
fine.
won 7 fucking maps and lost 30, you gotta lower the bar in terms of quality somewhere. I mean, he played good in this.
No,
series.
I actually think Molf
Okay.
Molf
This
1G was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Molf 1G,
Is he-
Summit 1G.
I've
No,
noticed
did you
actually-
see? Summit 1G interacted with it, with the tweet. Summit 1G interacted with the tweet where Molfig was like posted, and they were like, "Oh man, I love your name," because then 1G. In it.
What?
Wait,
the
what?
Yeah, you didn't
Where
see
was
this?
I didn't
No.
see
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Okay.
What
so
is this?
Summit 1G like
Is that why? Is that why
Interacted.
Mitch kept calling him Molf instead of Molfig?
yes, yeah, pretty much. So
Wait,
like here,
what?
let me find it.
Mitch in the cast
Um,
kept calling him Molf
Yeah,
instead
it's
of
right
Molfig.
here. Here it is.
Oh, I
It's- I'll
didn't
put it.
know.
I'll put it in the Overwatch channel. So Summit 1G, like Lotus Spitfire, like talked about how Molfig used to be a fan of Summit, and then the Summit quote retweeted the article. Was like nice. Like
Oh my
love
So
god.
is his name
1G.
actually Molf? It's not actually
Yeah.
Molfig.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it is. I just call him. I'm calling him Molf 1 gallon now because it's funny to me. I don't know.
Molf 1G. I love it.
Can we
That's
take
it.
a look at that YouTube link from the London Spitfire and maybe put some like captions on it and see if he says that? Have I just been pronouncing his name wrong for years?
I've been calling him Molfig.
Molfig is actually a cool name though. Like
I
it's
like
European, you
Molfig.
know?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Molfig
it's-
is good, but I mean
If
maybe
you really want to be called Molf 1G, I'll call him that.
I mean maybe that's what Mitch was
Molf
calling him. But
1G.
I think Mitch must have watched this, and perhaps he did
Oh,
say
there's no way Mitch watched it.
Assassin Kitty. Wow, that used to be his original name.
Sparkr was Assassin Kitty. He's got to go
That's so
back
funny.
to that. With our fan base, he'd be jerseys off the
Okay,
shelf.
all of y'all had early nicknames when you were like 10 years old that you don't currently have.
Oh,
which
mine was
exposed all of
terrible.
ours.
I don't know whether anyone
Okay.
knows mine. Mine was Small Fry, which I don't know.
Small fry.
I wasn't even
Small
small
fry.
as a kid. I was never a small guy. I don't know why I identified with that. I just went for it. Very
Mine
odd.
was Ghost from Halo. I just
Wow.
call myself Ghost.
Ghost.
And
That's
I was
edgy.
playing Surf, a Great River in Counter Strike. Life was good, man. Surf
Yeah.
maps was the shit.
I started playing
this-
League in school, and all my friends
Aw.
called me Molf. I don't really know why, but probably more. And then one day, one of my friends were introducing me to Summit 1G.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I
Oh
got the
my God.
1G from.
Yep.
Like I was a pretty big Summit fan when he's in the chat and all that. So I took that and wrote it in my name as well. So yeah, my name is actually Molf
Molf
1G.
1G.
Molf
And not
1G.
Molfig, but everyone calls me both.
Oh, that's,
that's
sweet.
sick.
That's,
That's funny.
nuts. I've been saying it wrong for years. What the hell? His
That's
name's
funny.
Yeah,
Molf.
I thought Johnny named himself after Reinhardt before I met him. So I mean,
Because you just don't know
True.
what the word reinforce means. You
Huh?
Your
He's
brain
not
doesn't
alone in
process
that.
anything with
Come
more
off
than
it.
two
He's not alone
syllables.
in that.
like me and Clint were pretty drunk for that year. So yeah, I mean, we had no clue what the hell was going on. We thought he was Ryan Force. Seemed like a nice guy on Twitter though.
I wanna go back to the question though. London, their first win of the season. Can we pull up their future games? Because the London
Oh, it's the
Spitfire
Titans.
now,
The Titans at the end.
it's
I mean,
it's
don't
just
even
the
pull it up.
Titans, right? They've already lost that opportunity to win the European rivalry. They lost to the Paris Eternal this week.
Battle
so
for bread.
that's it. It's just the breadstick battle, right? To see who gets the final win.
Okay. Can they beat Toronto?
I mean, with how Toronto's currently playing with Aspire, probably not.
Okay.
But
Uh,
I mean, like, but honestly, they did. I was reasonably impressed with London. I thought they understood their comp pretty well. Their backline is the best they ever played. Like Ripa played amazing.
yeah.
During that series, I did enjoy Sparkr. I thought Sparkr was played really well. But overall, it was just the best they played. But I don't think I watched that team and I'm just like, I just don't see how talent-wise currently they pull through and beat someone, especially now Defiant have added Aspire, who seems to be a fucking amazing.
What about if
So-
Atlanta just shits the bed? Is
I
there
don't
any
think
chance of
so.
that coming out of their June Joust performance? I know it's
No.
unlikely, but like it is a very different meta. And
I think
Atlanta weren't
London-
great before June.
London, I feel like, is in a very weird spot. Like Johnny mentioned, moving forward. Like, yeah, you have Sparkr now, but what do you think about the rest of the team? Like, where Paris, I think, clearly has a lot of pieces to build around, right? I'm not sure if London's there yet, but maybe
you could
kind
combine
of,
both those teams into a decent build for next year. If
how
you
many
keep,
how many of those players do you take from London?
one Sparkr, probably.
I would be open to giving Molf 1G and Rippa a chance.
Yeah.
No,
I
no
would be open
way
to
are you
the-
picking Ripper over Khan though. Not a chance.
No, I
right?
wouldn't take Rippa
yeah.
over Khan though. That's fair. But I
But,
would
like,
still
you're
be. I
saying
would still
just
be
for
open.
London.
I would be open to giving Molf 1G, Molf 1 Gallon.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
guess
don't-
you're keeping
I
Shax,
don't
right?
know.
Like Shax has been.
Oh
good
yeah,
whenever
obviously
he's played.
Shax, and obviously Shax. Like
I was
that's
gonna
like,
say, like, I feel like they haven't had the, you know, the full like kind of owl experience, right? With having to play from Europe, and like I think that obviously is tough on them. But then you kind of look at the other side of the
You look
coin,
at
and
Paris,
Paris in
man.
the same situation,
Yeah.
and they're not.
Paris are in a worse situation. Paris was supposed to be the worst of the two European teams.
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were.
London had been dominating people. All of the Paris players had been getting their heads kicked in by the British Hurricane, this exact same roster that got ported to Owl, and instead it's the hungry team that's been built together brand new for Owl that has ended up outperforming massively. You've
gotta
found
give,
the best
Avala-
pieces and been able to build a system that works better than anything
Yeah,
they
I
had
mean,
in EU
Avala
contenders.
NMA's got to get a ton of credit for being able to turn that into. I mean, even hell, I
And
mean,
get
obviously we
amazed as
haven't
well.
seen. Yeah, even I mean, they've won more games now than Florida and Atlanta. Obviously, Atlanta's lost to play, but nobody expected that coming into the season.
No.
You
I want
expected them
to
to be near the bottom.
move on though and talk about APAC because we've kind of covered everything that happened in North America this week. My opening question is the Seoul Dynasty, right? This wild team that no one knows exactly how to pin down. Everyone on the show predicted against them last week when we had Deepe on. And I felt like mostly that was because we didn't have faith in Seoul. It's not that we really had faith in their opponents, but we didn't know what Seoul was bringing. I think there's an argument to be made right now that Seoul are the best team that we've seen so far. We still haven't seen like Dallas, Shanghai, Houston, Atlanta, all these good teams that we expect to be better. But there's a genuine argument to be made that Seoul might be the best that we've seen of the teams that we've seen so far. They've been running Marvel at main tank. That's added so much stability. They've been playing mostly Ryan compositions. Prophet's been able to dominate on Tracer. Fitz has looked great. This is a fucking good team right now. They've actually found something that works. And thank God they're playing Marvel on main tank. They've raised my expectations again just to trash them again next week.
I feel like we've had this conversation like 50 times, like throughout like all these seasons. We're like, yeah, this is the time, and then like some fucking papegerie happens towards the end. I've just been burned by them so many times.
They're the only stable team. Look at their standings overall right now. They're the only stable team. They did consistently well. Okay, they didn't blow the fucking doors off by any means. They haven't made it to Hawaii or anything.
They've the highest map differential in the league.
They are doing well. They're beating up on an inconsistent APAC region, and they surprisingly have been, outside of Shanghai, they've been the most consistent team. Philadelphia Fusion were wildly inconsistent. They should have been the most consistent, but there's problems with their roster, you know, and everyone else has just been all over the place.
The full strength, though.
They're 8-2, man. They're doing fucking well.
I wanted to bring up, when we're talking about the underrated players section, I really wanted to say Fitz. But the thing is, I don't even consider Fitz underrated. I don't understand how people still consider Fitz underrated. But their DPS line is fucking nasty.
It's nasty.
The Fitz Prophet DPS line is nasty.
I said in 2020 that it had the potential for being the best that there was in the league. I don't think it has been, but it had the potential to be.
Because people got really mad at us. They're like, they don't care about APAC. Like, they didn't talk about Fitz. I'm like, well, I was thinking about bringing up Fitz, but like, Fitz isn't that underrated compared to like Elsa. Like, you know, if you want to bring me up, like, who do you think is more rated, Elsa or Fitz? And I'm like,
still
it's
on his Elsa
Fitz.
juice.
It's obviously fucking Fitz. Like, so I will admit, this dynasty, if they are keeping Marv 1G in, if they keep Marv 1G, Marv 1 in, then I think this team is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, they seem to, but then also I do still worry. I always worry about this team. But I will give them the credit saying, like, I feel like right now for this stage, this lineup, they will look like they'll make it to Hawaii.
And also, by all accounts, talking about the tank, by all accounts, I haven't watched the matches. It seems like Tuyu had a really good performance, and he was my main complaint, especially during the main melee. I thought that Tuyu didn't live up to the hype, and he was actually playing quite poor. But it seems like, from hearing what people say, that Tuyu is playing really well now too.
He was pretty good. I wouldn't say that he was the defining factor in their game, but he was good. Yeah. He didn't look like he was letting them down in any way. And honestly, that's what you need from the Seoul tanks. You just need space for Prophet and Fitz to pound. That's what I want from Seoul anyway. You want
and Marv 1 is actually really good. Marvel is really good. So I think Seoul, I am willing to I have cast out Spark. I've cast them out. I say away from my heart, Spark, but I will let Seoul in.
Okay.
And I'll let them be
This is a big change.
They're second.
This is rehabilitation.
I'll let them be second. But I have a feeling they're going to turn around and fucking stab me right in my aortic valve, and I'm going to bleed out just on the floor as fucking Gestures waltzes back in, covered in diamonds and gold and shit. Like, he's going to look like Mansa Musa and shit. He's just going to be he's going to be decked out. Like, I don't know.
Matt is not as trusting as you. He's not willing to let them into his heart. I can tell.
I mean, I always feel with this team, they're just gonna I feel like this is a perfect team that they get in their own way so much of it should be so easy for this team, and then they just do some stupid shit out of nowhere. If they can just avoid that, I definitely want to see more Marvel than Gesture at this point. And I mean, I hope we don't see Marvel back on off tank.
No. We're never seeing that again. Otherwise, we're gonna have words.
Yeah. God, you know what would be fucking hysterical if we saw the Gesture off tank on Roadhog or something like that. That would just be.
I mean, if there was a Roadhog meta, I would be perfectly fine with that. If there was a Roadhog meta and they played Marv Gesture and Gesture played full time.
What would you do if you saw Gesture roll out on the Diva?
No,
I would then be quite upset. I would then message Arnold and be like, "What the fuck are you guys doing over there?
Can I just come coach the team and basically just put my feet up and just put a lineup out there that can't do anything stupid?"
The other portion to this as well, though, is that in their game against Spark, they're just playing. What's the way to put this? The APAC region generally doesn't play very much Rush. And so I feel like they're very bad against Rush in general. Every team other than Shanghai just seems to flop against it. And the Seoul Dynasty are now trying to pick it up and play it properly. Whereas Spark, throughout every single map, even when it made no sense, like on King's Row, they were running this poke composition. Not the exact same version, but Gushue was playing ball all the time. MCD was always on Zen, and they were playing Shy on long range hitscan. And at that point, when you're watching Animo just speed boost Marvel into killing Shy for the 17th time, you've got to wonder what the hell is going through these teams' heads, because it feels like APAC is still trying to extract themselves from the deep source that they all lost themselves in across June.
I want to see them make it to Hawaii because, like we talked about the last time, outside of the Dragons, it's just been the two maps that Chengdu has taken, one each in each of their series against the NA teams, and that's it.
I want to see Philly as well, though. We haven't seen Philly yet.
I want to see some of these teams like Seoul and Philly make a run to Hawaii to see what they have against some of the top NA competition.
Yeah, same.
I can guarantee that this team is going to make the 2020 Summer Showdown finals. I guarantee it. It's going to happen.
Why? Who do they play against?
Yeah, the finals, yeah.
Who do they play against?
I don't know. They're just going to make it.
Oh.
Okay, good. Okay, very good. Nostradamus over here is like,
who do they play?
It could be
I guarantee it. Seoul Dynasty is going to make the 2020 Summer Showdown finals. I guarantee it.
I mean, you're probably right.
2021, sorry. 2021.
Finals of the whole tournament or just to Hawaii? They play the Dragons in Guangzhou.
Well, what other finals is there? The knockout finals? No, the main finals. They're going to make the main finals.
Okay, so
one of the last two teams standing is going to be Seoul Dynasty. I guarantee it.
Easily going to pound Guangzhou. They look absolutely fucking lost. So it's a 3-1 stage minimum there. Perhaps they have a chance of upsetting Shanghai, but who knows? Then they're going to play against somebody to try and get in. Probably somebody
Philly
quite-
or
I mean, maybe
Hangzhou.
Philly. They might have a actual game against Philly to decide if they go to the Summer Showdown, which could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like from the outside you could see like Philly and Spark potentially being those other two teams in the top four with Seoul and Shanghai.
Well, Seoul will be hoping they get Spark there then.
Yep.
Chengdu Hunters as well. Custer either brought this up on the show or tweeted it. I can't remember which, but I'm stealing his question here and posing it to all of you. Is the 5-5 Chengdu Hunters overrated? We've been talking about them as a good team. And at this point, it's a bit like the Florida Mayhem. They were good in the May Melee, and then they've been kind of planking since then. It's not as clear-cut as Florida, where it's just like bad. But Chengdu have been running weird players. They like Taro Cookie. They've been running weird comps that they've been not changing their comps, but also changing their lineups. Been a lot of odd decision making by especially the coaching staff. Is this team actually a good team right now?
They just become Chengdu again.
Have they?
Yeah, they're back on their bullshit. They're straight up just back on their bullshit. Like it's dumb. Chengdu has returned back to whence they've came. They have just reached an elevated energy level for a minute, like an electron, and they've drifted back to a different valence level. They're done. It's over. That one's for all you chemists out there. All you physical chemistry people right there.
That's a great analogy.
That's you. That's for you. So yeah, I think fucking Chengdu's back in their bullshit. I'm tired of this team as well. I'm tired of this fucking team as well. I'm tired of everyone in APAC except for, I say, the Seoul Dynasty. But even then, I know they're gonna fucking just eat me for no reason.
Fucking yeet yourself.
Chengdu also, exactly like the Spark, playing a shit ton of this poke composition, which a lot of APAC was trying to do. But I mean, here we have it again, just Seoul winning by playing Rush against a team that wants to play poke on maps like Hollywood, where no one's playing Zen Mercy comps on Hollywood. It doesn't make sense.
They're
to
figuring
me.
it out, man. Look,
Are
they're gonna figure it out. Yeah, they're look, man. They picked up Taro Cookie. They wanted to see what he was about. They're just making some changes. Eveltal is playing Mercy for this team. Nisha was not in the lineup initially, swapping between Monk as well. And I mean, they're just moving around the roster a little bit. They're trying to figure out what works for them. They do have the talent. They just haven't found it yet. And they keep messing around with the breaking ball. Look, they need a tracer to step the fuck up so they can compete with some of these top teams. Because right now, Leave is popping off. It's a crime that Leave is stuck on this roster.
So
because
good.
Leave is an absolute beast of a player. Like, he's one of the best Overwatch League players in the world. I'm not kidding. And he's stuck on the 5-5
that's
Chengdu
fair.
Hunters.
That's completely
He's
fair.
legit incredible.
Gaga's also been good on the main tank, but they keep messing around with the roster and making substitutions.
But their coach is
they're
taking
still a threat,
requests.
okay? They're not. They're maybe a bit overrated, but that's because of their brand. That's because of who they are. That's because of they have potential still. They are still a threat. They pose a threat. They're not the Guangzhou Charge. They're not the New York Excelsior. They pose a threat to some of these teams. It just so happens they play against Seoul Dynasty, who looks to be the best team right now in the Summer Showdown, and then they played against the Hangzhou Spark as well.
But
How
I
do
would
we get
argue
like
that's not
all
good
the
enough.
top Chinese players on one team? How do we do that? How do we get
but-
like
bro, you
Gushui
nearly
on this
do.
team and how do we do that?
You almost do. I mean, Chengdu is as close as you're going to be able to get. Why are they not playing Nisha? Why are they not playing Jimmy? Leave can play the
Well, okay.
Tracer. What's going on
Jimmy's
here?
overrated.
What?
Jimmy's
Jimmy's
overrated.
pretty
No,
good.
he's not.
No,
Jimmy's
pretty good. I think
underrated.
People talk about Jimmy like he's on fucking Knicks coming off, I don't know, ANS. He's not, dude. Like, he's okay. He's the good player.
People
better
don't
than
compare him
Taro
to
Cookie.
Ants. He's nasty
Jimmy's
good.
solid, okay? He's not fucking a god of Overwatch Esports, okay? Like, simmer down, dude. Like, turn off the stove from hot to low, man. Like, it's time to start simmer about the Chengdu Hunters and not overrated
Nice.
stuff.
Who's better on
I-
hitscan in APAC than Jimmy?
I mean, fit.
Fuck, I'll have to... Shy?
Yeah, sure.
I'll have to-
Shy.
I mean, you can
I'd
make
rather
your
have
I think
Flora than
Fitz
Jimmy.
has been the most.
You'd rather have Flora than Jimmy.
I mean, that's not crazy because Flora is pretty good.
play other
Flora could be
stuff.
better on a better team, but I think it's a hot take to say you take Flora over Jimmy currently. Still, I feel.
I
don't
rate
know.
Flora. I think he's
like,
pretty
who
good.
cares anyway? Like Jimmy is replaceable. You can pick up someone better than Jimmy and
No,
like
you
try to
can't.
No, you
His
can't.
name is
They
Jimmy.
literally-
What do you
they only
replace
won
him?
Yeah, they only won the only map they won was with Jimmy, right?
You,
This
okay,
series?
you,
that
you
doesn't-
can't just replace him with Taro Cookie.
That Jimmy's good because he's got a map.
But he is. What when you watch him, he hits fucking nasty shots, and Taro
was,
Cookie's out
he
there
was
doing
better.
nothing.
Yeah.
You can't be telling me that
What?
Taro Cookie's worth investing in when you have Jimmy.
Once they brought Swoosh
Oh, I
and they
can't
started
believe
winning maps,
the
we
San
knew who was the
Francisco
better
Shock
tank. We knew who was the
subbed
better
in
tank.
Super playing Reinhardt on King's Row and they lost. That
Once
means
they brought
Super
in,
sucks, right? Because he played the Reinhardt on King's Row and they lost.
They brought
It
in
just adds up,
Fraggy
right?
for
That
Johnny.
makes sense to me.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether they won or not. When you just look at how they played, Taro Cookie was not having impact that Jimmy was having. Jimmy was
Yeah,
pounding on that
I heard
Gibraltar.
Team
That's not what I'm
Sweden.
arguing. I'm not sitting here saying that fucking Cookie though is better than Jimmy. That's
You said he
not
was
the argument
replaceable.
I'm
They tried to
making.
replace him. It failed.
Fucking cookie dough.
I'm saying there's could be better players to fill this spot.
I heard
Oh
when
my
Johnny was
God.
playing for Team Sweden, they tried to get a Roshan's Swedish citizenship to replace him.
But the issue
Would've been
was
better
that
than
we're focusing
Swoosh,
on the
fuck
we're
me.
focusing on the players here, where they're still playing non-optimal comps into
I mean,
into
they're
a team.
they're always going to play non-optimal.
Yeah. But the thing is, there was hope. There was hope for them to not do that. That was the whole point of picking up Gaga, is that they get off the stupid fucking meme comps. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
point of having Gaga in the lineup. They were literally hamstrung by having like 2 left feet, like by the Overwatch version of that for all of last year. And now they have 2 feet. They can be ambidextrous. They can do many things. They can do all sorts of shit now. And they just play all sorts of dumb shit all the time.
It's like yeah. I mean, they
I
had
think-
2 left feet, and then they were like, "Hey, let's fix this." But then they've just taken their, better correct foot and just fucked it up and turned
They
it.
reversed it. They've like
Yeah.
fucking spun it around the socket to where it's back to being left. Like, I
feel
don't
like-
get why they've done this.
I
People are
feel like
talking.
with hero pools, like they weren't allowed the temptations that they love so much with Zenyatta, Sombra, Tracer, Reinhardt. They couldn't play their Wrecking Ball comps, and so they just gotten off this diet where you can't have
breaking
Zenyatta, you
news.
can't play with Zenyatta, and so instead, and then it just so happens that now against the Seoul Dynasty, they're like, oh, we're going to some Michelin restaurant, and they're just like, oh, I just want to have a burger because I haven't had a burger in like 1 month, and now they're just like playing Zenyatta.
Breaking news.
What is this breaking
Massive
news?
breaking news.
Oh my god.
The Vancouver Titans have announced the winner of the pie crafting showdown.
Don't fucking.
Let's go! Let's fucking go!
The pie craft showdown champion is Lynxer's pie. His
How's
custom
that?
pie will be available to order starting
No,
July
this has
26th
black olive. I
from
reject it.
Pizza Hut Canada. Although it has black olives,
I reject it.
he's just the fan favorite. That's why they didn't really like his pizza. I think they just did it because he's their fan
No, that's a
favorite.
lit pizza. Or
No,
well,
I don't like black
no.
olive.
roasted
It's-
garlic. I don't know about, but
Why
Roasted
are
garlic
you-
is fine. Black
Why are
olive
you
bad.
throwing pepperoni in there to ruin what would otherwise be a great pizza?
I mean, pepperoni's
Pepperoni's
fine.
always good.
even
But the thing is, you only need one meat.
Somebody in the comments said that it's a based pizza, but then they responded to their own tweet and said, except for the olives, but that can be forgiven. Yeah, nobody.
Yeah,
nobody
so I
wants
mean,
the
that's
olives.
that's like the huge component here. There's only 4 ingredients.
How
There's only 4
about this?
Everyone's
toppings.
gonna call up and be like, "Can I get the Lynxer without olives?"
Exactly. That's what I'm telling you guys. If Vancouver Titans win a game this season, which itself is a big if, because they'd have to get to the end, have the breadstick bowl, be able to beat the London Spitfire. If they manage to do that, I'm ordering one. I'm eating one live on the show. We're going to do a review, one bite. Everyone knows the rules. We're going to review the Lynxer pizza. We'll do it.
Can we get an Uber Eats to go from Vancouver to?
Yeah. Well, I've been proposing that
Let's
since
go
I think
Lynxer.
the borders for Canada are going to open up soon. I've been proposing that if Titans win, a Vancouver Pizza Hut meetup where everyone meets up at a Vancouver Pizza Hut.
I'm
And we
down.
all
Vancouver's
get
a
the
nice
pizza.
city, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Go to Vancouver and go
I'm
meet up at a Pizza Hut in Vancouver, and then
Okay,
you literally it's perfect.
They should let Josh and I cast that game from the outside of a Pizza Hut location in
God, I'd
Canada.
love it. I'd love that.
Just a parking lot, just like we're reporters, just letting the pack in there for the bread.
By the way, people are posting on Reddit and Twitter and stuff now that it's become a meme that this was genius marketing. This is not genius marketing. It relied on your team being so shit that they couldn't hand away free breadsticks. You literally can't get rid of free breadsticks. That's not good
is
marketing.
my favorite thing, though. I
You've
think if you were
stumbled
to
into
rank,
it.
if you were to rank some of like just the hilarious, unintentionally hilarious things that have happened during Overwatch League, this may have actually ascended to the top. And I think there's only tops, and I think just barely. Season 1 Shanghai Dragons Day, where they're the only team with a day, and they didn't win any games, and they had cheerleaders, and they were like,
cheerleaders.
It was like a massive thing. Like
I don't even remember that.
They had cheerleaders in the venue, and we weren't allowed to play the music on the broadcast that the cheerleaders were dancing
they were
to.
just dancing in silence.
No, we played some like copyright-free music, and the beat didn't match up, and it was just like some jingle that was like. It was so cringe.
Is that the funniest thing ever, though? Because didn't shoulder check happen in season 1?
No, he's talking about like a marketing meme, you know, like something.
You also
that
got
was
to put
ongoing.
there the justice people with the circles, the
those
ring
were
circus
fucking
people.
dancers.
Yeah.
And then
aerial
presidents,
dancers.
the big-headed presidents that ran down.
Those were
I
amazing.
think, that's got to be up there too. There have been some,
But that wasn't an extended meme. That was just a one-time event.
Can you imagine how boring this marketing campaign would have been if they actually just won the breadsticks like the second time?
Yeah,
around?
it wouldn't be. I mean, to be fair, I feel like no matter what, this is when you attach actual quantifiable rewards to a certain result, like that's a time-honored tradition in sports.
Yeah.
Like they'll do it in all sorts of sports. So I feel like it's always like a very solid shot to do that.
But the
It's just
funny
fact of
thing
the
is,
shit
the
that's fun.
funny thing is
best
that they
for this,
couldn't
too.
hit it for so
Yeah,
many times in a
that's
row.
the best part.
like
That's the funny part.
like when you go to a basketball game and if they hit a certain score or above that, everybody gets a free taco. Like it's different because everybody's drunk. I don't think everybody's drunk watching Overwatch.
I've started drinking during Titans games. I'm not even kidding. If you go back and watch my VODs, I have started drinking. I'm getting to the end of the day because generally at the end of the competitive streams, I'm going like whoop, like, oh man, I need a beer. You know, like it's been a long day. Like now I've just started putting the beers on the Titans games. I've just started doing that because like it just hurts to watch. I think they've done a good job of leaning into it, though.
So good.
Because some places
they've done a great job.
they've done a good job of leaning into it when they start putting like the bingo card out and shit. Like I have to give them some credit. The most of their social media is dog shit.
The
But God,
hubris on the bingo card, though. The hubris to put Linksa with 3 critical hits on the same column as map 5. So every single time it just goes back to square one of needing map 5 to be able to
But the
unlock
thing
the
is,
breadsticks.
that's good because it's like you rope them in with an easy like condition, and then you keep them
Yeah.
invested.
I
I was about to argue with the pizza lawyers though about the boop kills and like about a lot of different things. The pizza lawyers here are vicious. Then the fine print, they're fucking Borpa businessing about. Like they want to catch you. And so many times they say they don't want to include certain things. And
What
like the pizza lawyers are ruthless.
Has anyone figured out what Echo Triple Winston Reinhardt means?
Yes, I have. Echo Triple Winston. So I have been going over this heavily with I've been going over this heavily. I've spent this night and day poring over this like fucking Nick Cage and National Treasure.
So bad.
And
what is it?
Pretty much it just requires if the Echo copies a main tank, so then it makes if the Echo copies a main tank, that counts as a triple. Like
But that
if
isn't
there's
a triple.
This-
Unless the
I
other
don't
team
know.
is mirroring.
I'm not, that's how I interpreted it, is in the fact that like the enemy team is playing Winston, you're playing Winston, you copy the enemy team's Winston, you have 3 Winstons on the
there's
field.
3
Well, then
The
why
enemy
not make
team is
it a
playing Reinhardt, they're
quadruple?
playing Reinhardt.
Because the triple is not something.
Because
uncommon.
the triple applies to the number of heroes on the field. So there's 3 Winstons, 3 Reinhardts.
Right.
Yes,
That's
how I've understood
strange.
it. Now there might be a constitutional pizza lawyer that's gone to school for a long time that might know more, but that's how I'm assuming that's how I'm getting it.
I want to get us back on track with the final piece of APAC news is a report coming out from Halo of Thoughts, which is that Kalios, there we go. I got there eventually. Is reportedly joining NYXL. This is a former Boston Uprising player, someone that was on the same squad as old pizza lawyer to be
know
here.
Kalios. I do.
Avast.
Yes.
You were on Boston?
Yeah. Sort of like it's like in the same way Ty was on Shock. I was on Boston. It's a similar situation.
I do think that the NYXL tank line has been pretty shit so far this season.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I do agree that the responsibility is not just on Yakpung. Bianca has also been really poor this year. The Bianca stands have gone into hiding after that everyone was telling me that they were going to be fantastic. But I don't think this is going to be a solution. I mean,
I think this is a last resort of, let's see if Yakpung can recapture some of what you liked about him after he left Owl and went to Contenders by putting him with somebody that he's comfortable with. If that doesn't work, then it seems like you kind of blow up the whole tank rotation. Unless Kalios plays well, you never know, right? We've seen him play well on like Zarya in the past. I think when he was on.
I mean, his contender, he's been in Contenders this whole time, and he's been doing pretty decently as well.
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, he was one of the two players to get 5K. So ever. But I mean, his Diva's actually pretty decent. Like, so he's improved beyond just the Zarya one-trick role.
Yeah.
Weren't there problems with his attitude or something?
I don't know. Well, that was post an uprising 2018. I mean,
What are we talking about?
Better than Kalios and like attitude and stuff in 2018. Did you know him?
Well, we can. I don't know if we're allowed.
Is that not a concern though?
I don't think it's going to be a concern for this roster. No,
because they're not a mixed roster.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't think it's going to be.
You're probably under an NDA still, aren't you?
Well, the president of gaming. If I talk about this, I go to a CIA black site where they're going to execute me. If I talk about it too.
You know what they need? I feel like actually NYXL with their roster, they've actually hit on a bunch of like players. I feel like I think Friday's been better than expected. I think Flora's been good. You need where's Daco at? Why can't they just add Daco? Just add a little K.
Just pull all the people that have had attitude issues and pop them into one big bag.
Get my boy Daco back.
I think Kalios will be a fine fit for this team, though. I don't know if off tank is their problem because I feel like Bianca actually does have a lot of talent. But it just their tank line in general has just been so non-synergistic in their overall roster.
Is there any off tank in the league you believe does not have talent? Because you speak very positively about like 15th best off tanks in Owl.
Well, I mean, because I think off tank lines in general, it's hard to like it can be hard to really see your impact when your coordination's really low, right? And I think there's a lot of talent. I really think there's a lot. There has not been because since. Essentially, I don't think there's been a time recently at all where a player has been brought into Overwatch League that just simply is not fit to be there. There's like very few instances since like season 2 or like that really where players just not fit to be in Overwatch League, in my opinion. I think all players that have made the Overwatch League like from season, well, I don't
have 3 teams right now that are winless, you know?
But I mean, Linkser has been good. Like Linkser's been good in the past.
Oh, in the past, not this season.
Like, but the point being, Dalton, I think, still has talent. Fried has talent. I think. Okay, sure, I'll give you Rolf. But like that, the overall, like
you just threw Rolf under the bus.
But the point being is that like,
right?
I think the level of the caliber of player that's entered Overwatch League since like season 2. Before it's like season 1, season 2, there was a bunch of shit. There's like, why? Like, this is old contract shit. This is like, do not speak to me about the old Magic. I was there when it was written type of contract stuff, where players being in there. And so I don't think I think the overall level of player has increased so much where I think I can make an argument that just about every player has the talent to be in Overwatch League. It's more so.
You don't think there's a big difference in talent though between the
No,
top
I do think there's still a big
difference.
I do think there's a big difference, right? But like there's only a select group of like really talented people. You're always going to have a bunch of average to below average players circulating around, But no, we don't have anyone so tragic that I could be like anyone could be like we could get like a bunch of other people like no matter what to go play for them, right? Like
I mean, there's the whole of the Valiant arguments as well. I assume you're leaving them out.
I mean, you have Maloran, but okay, sure, Valiant, okay.
Yeah,
but Valiant is sure.
Yeah, Valiant is a special example because they're
very special case.
The franchise fucked it up.
Yeah, that's a very special case.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to our forward thinking for this week. We've got some predictions to go through. The Plat chat. Oh, we did. Sorry. Yes, I didn't write that down because I am an idiot. But we had Takoyaki as well, who left the Hangzhou Spark. Yeah. Was there a reasoning for this? I haven't caught up on this piece of news.
I think they just released him. They were playing him a bit, if I remember, at the beginning of the season. Like,
I don't think he played, did he?
No, I think he played a few maps.
He played a couple, didn't he?
Yeah, I think
I can't
I think he
remember.
did play a few maps this season. At the beginning, and then they just we haven't seen him since.
I imagine that this is Takoyaki wanting playtime. I would. The reason I'm speculating that, where I didn't speculate it earlier when we were talking about hydration, for example, is that Takoyaki was one of the players that people were excited about coming into the league this year from contenders. I think it was Rush that tweeted something like, "This guy's going to be the best main tank in the league." Don't know where the fuck he came to that.
Well, to be fair, I
rated
mean,
that
like
highly, but
Rush
okay.
worked with him, Element, like knows him from like Element Mystic
Sure,
and stuff.
right.
And
But this guy
I
was
only
good.
mostly know him as a Rhine player. I only know him as a Rhine. Pretty much it.
And
Why
why
doesn't
Excelsior
the York
grab
pick
him?
this guy? Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It's
and
so
why
obvious.
Excelsior grab this guy? Yeah,
it's so obvious. I mean,
Wait, sorry, say again.
and why Excelsior
York.
grab Takoyaki?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that might be what they are planning to do. Like maybe Takoyaki's going to shop himself around. New York would be a big pickup. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to the Valiant if I was him, and that wouldn't make sense considering it's a full Chinese roster. But is there anywhere else that he'd be a natural fit? Probably not. Right?
Wow, that's crazy. I actually told Josh, like, hey, we can speculate where it's going. And here I sit and I'm like,
I guess
So
it's
I'm
like
gonna
New
propose
York.
something. I'm gonna propose something
Florida?
wild. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Well,
You were gonna propose
As you said
Florida.
it. I'm sorry. I ruined it. What?
I mean, no, I agree with Johnny. I mean, theoretically,
Wow.
Florida.
It is
could,
wild,
I mean,
Avast. It is wild.
Have we
I mean,
lost
I
that much
would be
hope
open
in
to it.
OG?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, we're just proposing where players could go, right? And if you look
Okay.
at Florida, would refreshing their main tank potentially do something for them? Would having an alternate main tank to rotate in and like specialize OG into something else? Would that be a really good
Yeah.
move
it
for
could-
them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
think
could
it
be.
definitely could.
That's a good point. I was gonna say something when we were talking about Shock about adding a player, which was just absolutely stupid as well. But I'll save it for
Were you
me.
going to say they should add hydration?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
I was
By
gonna
the way,
say they should
Hydration
add-
wrote a tweet
I was
longer.
gonna say that they
he
should
just wanted to play more. So
Oh, they should add Toby after he's done with the fusion.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Wait, you're saying Shock? Oh, wait, I thought you were talking about him still. Oh, wait.
it's
You know, honestly, I'd still be okay with that
insane.
because I'm a Toby simp.
It's
So,
not.
I'm a
he's
Toby simp.
He's a good like
I don't
I
think
fucking
that's,
love Toby.
I don't think the answer is to add more pieces for the Shock to rustle around in their support.
But Toby
rotation,
seems like
though.
a pretty safe player that they could work in.
I
there.
love Toby. I love his style of play. I'd be fine with Toby going anywhere that is not currently top tier.
Yeah,
For the most
okay.
part.
Let's get wildly out of the speculation zone. Plat chat top 5 next matches of next week predictions. Let's go.
Is that what this segment's called? The
The
top
Plat chat
5
pick'ems,
matches?
the top 5 matches of the week. Yeah, okay. I've got it. I'm all together. This is a long episode. Let's get going. First game, exciting game. Neither team we've seen before. Washington Justice against the Atlanta Reign. Everyone has gone with the Washington Justice. here.
okay.
World Star.
Dang.
I'm
I mean, I
assuming
think that if it's a Tracer meta and Decay is in the lineup, I think they're gonna.
If they don't play
That's it.
Decay, I want this pick to be flipped. Have that there.
Yeah,
If
I
they
think
don't
this is
play
hinges.
Decay-
There's an asterisk here if the Decay plays. I think.
But
That's the
how
big
could you
thing,
not
right?
play Decay in this meta? Like, what possible reasoning would you have for not playing him?
Who the fuck knows?
But you could make
I mean-
arguments before for when it was like when your Tracer maybe had to flex to Sombra or something that they wanted. I don't know. It was weak anyway, but or like the real reason that Decay wasn't being fielded though was because Reaper was being played, and it was like, okay, well, is he really going to add the value that you want to see on Reaper? But on Tracer, there's no argument. Like if they don't play Tracer, if they don't play Decay in a Tracer meta, you're just throwing.
he should be in the lineup all the time. He should be in the lineup.
He's just one of those players that's good enough, and he's where unless it's literally just not a hero he doesn't play, he's probably worth it to have in. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pretty cut and dry, honestly. I also really want to see the Washington Justice playing quick, play fast tempo. I think the
Yes.
adjustments they made at the end of the June Joust to really pick up that rush meta and be the proactive team made such a difference for them. If they come in and they play the slow comps, I'm going to be worried because that is when they look at their worst, I think. Moving on, though, we have a rematch of earlier on in the season, the Houston Outlaws against the San Francisco Shock. Okay. Myself and Matt have gone with the Shock. and Avast and Jonathan going with Houston. We've already seen the Shock. They went 1-1. It wasn't that impressive, but I want to hear from the Houston crowd. Why do you have faith in Houston this time around? This was supposed to be the beginning of them having a really tough strength of schedule and potentially going downwards from their 7-1.
I mean, Shock is obviously struggling, right? They're the underdog pick. They are. Absolutely. If what we're seeing is more Tracer, this team has Dante and Happy. I feel that Happy could potentially cancel out some of the threat that ANS poses to this team. I think that Houston Outlaws in general has been a pretty solid team. Like, yes, they have a main support situation going on with Jake that they cannot really figure out, and Juby. But overall, it's a pretty consistent team. They're coached well. I think they'll figure out their compositions. They have good individual skill. I think Houston Outlaws are primed to capitalize on Shock being a bit hampered right now.
Okay.
I think this meta is perfect for them. I think this is a perfect meta situation where they can play Lucio Ana full time as well. I think they could play Lucio Ana full time and get away with it. They could play tons of Ryan. They could play Winston with Jonggu. Like, I mean, they could play the Dreamer Winston too, even though I'd like just play fucking Jonggu, but sure, maybe they've gotten more time to integrate Dreamer in there. I think this meta perfectly aligns with their strengths for both their DPS and their support line. And I think it's a pretty solid situation overall for their tanks. Like, and Shock currently are integrating new players, figuring out their lineup, and still do not understand, I feel like, their own shot calling and structure. So
I feel like the Glister Tracer may have gone a little bit underrated this week. He was fucking.
It's not about the Glister Tracer being bad. It's just about the fact that when I think Glister Tracer is really good. I just think that when we talk about the overall strength of where these teams are at, like, I think the only way that Shock in the short term becomes like a team that becomes unbeatable again is if they just play Twilight full time. In my opinion, they play Twilight full time. They don't bother with a support rotation. And they just like figure out from there, because Ana is really, really meta right now. You can get away with playing Ana full time, I think, for the most part. But I think this is a perfect setup for the biggest weakness for Houston, which is a support lineup. The meta is great for them. Meta is great for them right now.
We haven't really seen many teams play the Lucio Ana. Like, they've mostly played, and I think you can get away with it with like Genji. Honestly, is like where you've been seeing the Gladiators have success with it, being hyper aggro with it. That would be unusual. I hadn't considered that as an option for them. I don't really know what what Happy would play there, though, because when I think about Houston and like what they should be really good at in this meta, I'm thinking Happy long range hit scan, Dante on the Tracer, Ana Brig is kind of a necessary part of that composition rather than playing the Lucio. So I don't know how easily their DPS line fits into that. Maybe Happy plays Doom and they play like some Doom Sombra and they just actually are a bit of a copy of the Gladiators.
I think they could make it work if they played some, like, even if they still played McCree with that, or even like Ashe or something, because Ashe has escape mechanics from a dive.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely options. I just think currently the meta is decent for Houston, and it's not that the meta is bad for Shock. It's just that their current inability to figure out their own structure is hurting them pretty heavily.
I'm concerned about Houston Outlaws. The reason that I've gone with the San Francisco Shock here is that I think that, first of all, even though the Shock looked poor this week, if you give them another week to try and figure things out, normally they have been pretty good at that in the regular season. They still only have 2 regular season losses. This isn't like a team that's down in the dumps. You need to start cutting people. Yeah. People massively overreacted to the losses of the Shock and the Gladiators this week, but they did look bad. Definitely, there were some serious weaknesses, but they're still not a tragic team. I expect Houston to have actually some difficulties with their support line, because I think they're going to have to rotate around a bit. Unless they are really creative and come up with like the Gladiators way of being able to force Lucio Ana a lot. Ana Brig is what I would expect them to be playing, or the BAP Brig or BAP Lucio setups when it comes to...
And BAP Lucio would still be good for them too.
But I think if they go to that, Shock are just going to eat their butts. I think trying to... Well, I don't know, actually. Maybe I don't know. Django was really good on the Rhine early on. Maybe they can...
I think this is a very good benefit for Houston. Hey, but it's tough. I think, but I do agree with you. Long-term, Shock, in my opinion, should still be a better team. Long-term.
Yeah.
Once they fix their shit, Shock should be a way better team still. It's just short. This is just short-term for this one match.
I'm excited for this game, though, because there's some serious rivalry here. And not just that, there's some serious, like, Houston Outlaws fans have been hearing that the second half of the season should go badly for them, that they're overrated, that this 7-1 record is going to fall. If they come out and start with a win over the Shock, as they did in the May Melee, those, I mean, first of all, they're going to be insufferable. But secondly, that is such a boost to the Houston fan base. Like, they are going to be fucking on fire. They're going to be feeling so good about
all those
this
facts are still true. All those facts are still true, though.
yeah,
Getting a win here, though, they also
feel like they're not.
They also would end up tying the Shock for number 2.
Yeah, that's massive. I mean, this game has serious implications because if you don't catch the Shock when they're feeling bad and you end up losing to them, that could definitely start like this cascade downwards for Houston. Getting this win could be massive for their season.
Shock sits at 8 league points, where if they get to 9, they find themselves only one behind the Dallas Fuel at that point for first.
But Dallas haven't played yet, whereas Shock have played their 2 first games.
Dallas also, though, has all of theirs come from the tournaments because they're only 5-3 for the overall season.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Dallas Fuel then, because our next match coming up is the Atlanta Reign playing against the Dallas Fuel in this interesting match of the 2 teams that went to the June Joust, and everyone has gone with Dallas to nobody's surprise.
No.
This feels like another meta where they should be fucking insane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to step on the tempo as well. And just like well, the Overwatch we've seen, I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas Fuel just like, yeah, we're going to do that, but we're going to do it like 2-3 times better and faster than everyone else. And we're just like,
yeah,
very cool. Thank you, Dallas Fuel.
I think it's going to be like Gladiators on crack. Like all of the good stuff you saw from the Gladiators this week is going to be like that, but even better. They're going to have the same level of tempo. They might mess around with Sparkle on Doom or Genji, but still find value from it. You've got Doha playing the Sombra instead of Birdring, which I think it makes it way more viable to try and play that kind of style. And then you have Fearless playing the Winston instead of Muse. Like, it's just...
they should be fucking nasty.
All of the metas this year have fallen into the lap of the Dallas Fuel, and they have gobbled them up.
So I feel like Avast, you probably don't have much more to say on Dallas Fuel, I'm guessing.
No, that sounds about right to me.
So I want to take this time as well and talk about the Atlanta Reign, our expectations for Atlanta Reign in the Summer Showdown. Because now we're moving to this kind of dive composition. Are we going to see like Edison Tracer back in the lineup for this team? Or are we going to see Pelican Genji kind of stuff? Or are they going to rely on Pelican Echo once more? Are they going to play some Reinhardt stuff with Gator now when Reinhardt is back in the mix? What do we think about the Atlanta Reign in the Summer Showdown?
From what I think we think the meta is going, and from what we've seen, I don't know if this is going to be one of their strongest tournaments. I think kind of like the last tournament was kind of as close to ideal as you can get. I don't think that they excel in this fast-paced Winston-based compositions.
I don't think they're even going to play it. I think they're going to try and turtle against Dallas. They're going to play Kion Torbjorn. They're going to play Edison playing like, or maybe Edison Torbjorn, Kion McCree, something like that. And then they're going to, and then they're going to play. Well, no, I think they'll play the Rhine comps, honestly, but maybe they play Recidiva as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, then, moving on to the second to last match. It's a massive one over in APAC. Number 1 versus number 2, the Seoul Dynasty playing against the Shanghai Dragons. Has anyone punted for the underdog? Yes, they have. Jonathan Reinforced Larsson has gone for the Seoul Dynasty. Okay, talk to me. What's going on there?
Prophet wins when he wants to. That's about it. I mean, they're going to the Summer Showdown finals. I'm telling you. Right. Yes, I am very scared of the Lip Tracer. I'm not going to lie, okay? Oh, bless you, Siri. Just sneezed into the mic. I mean, Shanghai Dragons. I'm not trying to disrespect the Shanghai Dragons, and I'm not trying to underrate them, okay? I just think Seoul Dynasty, based on week 1, are this good, okay? I think they're going to capitalize early. Shanghai Dragons, historically, have started out shaky in both the May Melee and the June Joust. And then they download their opponents, they download the meta, and they get better over time as we get closer to knockouts, as we get closer to playoffs. This is a prime opportunity for Seoul Dynasty, who look strong early on, to take on a Shanghai Dragons before they've reached their highest power level. So I think the Seoul Dynasty, this is a perfect matchup for them to just capitalize early, be the underdog, and slam the Shanghai Dragons with the power of Prophet Tracer.
I am very worried about Lip Sombra, Fleda Tracer just tearing through. I mean, the Seoul Dynasty have been
yes,
mostly
I am
playing
worried
Rush.
about that. Don't get
but-
me wrong, I am.
I don't know. Also, I feel like Shanghai could mirror the Rush and maybe play it better as well.
Also, the meta is similar to what's been played before, so there's not as much learning to be done. They've now experienced 2 different metas and have essentially returned to a meta that's similar to May Melee, but now with the experience they have from June Joust, so they can add in a lot more of like the Echo, like I think a lot of the Echo and Orisa, like sort of centric styles. So I feel pretty confident with Shanghai now that they've seen more data.
Well, let's talk about them again, because they do not have an easy first week here. They're playing also against the Philadelphia Fusion, and none of us are going for the Philadelphia Fusion as an underdog pick.
It's a banger of a matchup, though, and it's double points on Pick'em. So I thought it was worth highlighting.
I think a reason I went with Shanghai is because I just don't think we have an idea of what Philly's roster is going to look like. I know some of the players have made it to Korea. If I'm not mistaken.
I believe everyone is in Korea right now. Their entire starting roster. Shockwave is there. Poco is there. Who else? EQO is there. Funny Astro is there. As far as I'm aware, they have the entirety of their roster available for this.
So this could be like, is this their first game of the weekend or second? I think they play. I think this is the second day, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, this could be the first time we see the Philly roster at full strength. Which maybe they come out with a ton of energy and just kind of show us something that we didn't think, or maybe we didn't expect to see this early. I think they're still going to need time, though, even with that full roster, to get up to a level of a Shanghai Dragons and even Seoul Dynasties. So I think even if they do play the starting roster, I still would stay with Shanghai here.
I hope they do eventually get to that point, though. And I hope it's somewhat fast, too. Like, Philadelphia are really the team that should be, if you look at their prior season's results, who are up there at the exact same level as the Shanghai Dragons. There wasn't that much separating them last year in 2020 between those two teams. And they were playing in totally different regions, albeit. But it should have been an amazing clash this year that's just been ruined by roster issues.
And Shockwave is fucking sick.
He's
So
good.
getting to see Shockwave on this roster with like Carpe and Rascal still in the mix, like this roster could be fucking nutty once we see them actually get out there and do it. I'm sure the players like Shockwave, like Funny Astro and Poco are like dying to go out there and put on like a sick performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that does it for our predictions segment. But now we have a special segment.
Oh.
I think we have to do this anyway, though. But also, I mean, I think we're just going for a monster episode, because otherwise we'd have to separate it into a second video. And we've already said that we're doing it today. So this is unfortunately the part that we're contractually obliged to do, because
I have to get some water. My throat is dying, man.
I have to take Siri out to pee. Hold on.
All right. So yeah, we'll get the big boys here to handle this. What are we doing?
Okay. All right. We've been talking about having some kind of reward system for members who have become members to our YouTube channel. And
Josh,
one of the
going
things
to your houses.
What, sorry?
You're going to each member's house.
No, I'm not going to each. Going to each member's house with a Linksa pie and feeding it to them? No, those are not the advantages you get for becoming a member to the Plat channel.
Okay. I thought we talked about that.
One of the things that we've discussed doing is a Q&A segment. Now, because our episode has run so long, we might end up separating this in the future into its own separate video. Let us know in the comments if you'd rather have this at the end of like a crazy long episode, or if you want it to have its own special time. Because some of these questions as well, we couldn't actually answer because they were so good that they deserved more time to be spent on them. So it seems to us like it would be better in its own video, but let us know what you think as well. For the first time, though, we're going to do it
too intelligent, as expected.
They were too intelligent.
You learned so much from watching this.
So what we've got essentially is we posted a members-only community post asking for questions, hot takes, stuff like that for us to review at the end of this. We've picked out 4 of the best ones that we think we can fit in at the end of this episode, and so we're going to go through them. The first one is from SI Not Found, who made that fantastic video earlier on about the experimental card, who says, with the memes about Fearless being this season's anime protagonist, who do you think were anime protagonists of the previous seasons? Who
I don't
springs
watch
to
anime,
mind?
so I don't know.
Oh, you are just the shittest. And it doesn't have to be an anime protagonist, Matt. It can be a protagonist of any media that you watch. Do you read books? No, you don't read books. We've already been there. Any character arc across Game of Thrones. I know you watch Game of Thrones. One of like Jon Snow. Who was the Jon Snow of previous years? I can't believe I'm having to go this far to get you on board. For me,
who was last year's?
Super is absolutely
yeah.
one of the protagonists. I would say of 2019. Watching his Reinhardt play in 2019, after in 2018 he just turned 18, the team was going through like building around him for the future. They get Krusty on board. 2019 was Super's year. He was 100%
Was Fleda's
the
last
anime
year?
protagonist.
Was Fleda like the protagonist last year? Bringing the
Maybe.
dragons from the depths,
I could
winning the
admit,
MVP.
I mean, that's a
Possibly,
pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good story. I mean, because also the protagonist arc has to. It's the storyline associated with it. It's not just like the performance. It's like the storyline associated with it,
Yeah.
right? So like, supers could make sense. I mean, also one of the Titans players for for 2019 as well could make sense because it's like
Ooh.
Runaway.
Dude, 2020, I think was Alarm, actually. Maybe.
Ooh.
If Alarm had popped off in the grand finals, or if he'd won some kind of big award. Did he win Rookie of the Year? I think he did,
Yeah, I
actually,
think
didn't
so.
he?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. He won Rookie of the Year.
You could argue that like injection into the Philadelphia Fusion, the fact that they finished first in the regular season standings, that, and then the problem is that it didn't have a satisfying conclusion. But Alarm was definitely one of the candidates last
Well,
year.
yeah, I mean, I think Fleta and Alarm are both good candidates for 2020. What about the season 1 though?
It's gotta be like
Is it like
Gesture
Profit
something,
or
isn't it?
or Gesture?
or Profit.
Profit or Gesture, probably.
Profit.
They come in, they win stage 1 after
Oh,
being
what about,
dominant in Apex.
What
and then
about
they
Bird Ring,
peak at the
where
end.
he's great and then he goes on a little bit of a break and then he comes back?
Oh, and there was like the wrist issues stuff and all of that.
yeah, and he comes back.
Yeah.
with the
Or what about
Widow at the
Fissure?
end.
Fucking Fissure was like
Oh,
a main
yeah.
character.
Would
in the
he have
early
been?
years.
How would he have been the anime protagonist though? Because his conclusion was like not good.
He was the antagonist, I feel.
He was the antagonist.
Yeah.
if anything.
Yeah.
He was definitely the bad guy of 2018, 2019,
Yeah.
something like that. 2018 particularly.
I think it has to be someone from London for sure from 2018. Season 2, I would agree with Super, or maybe someone from Runaway, but Super's a good pick. 2020, Alarm, Fleta. I mean, technically Fearless was available in 2020, but I think Fearless is obviously this year's.
Yeah.
So
It feels like it's been a lot of main tanks. Like in the first year, you could argue it was
That's
Gesture with Fissure being the antagonist. In the second year, you could argue it was Super with Bumper being the antagonist. And then this year, it's Fearless. Maybe Fate will become the antagonist.
I don't think, but
really
I don't know. I don't think there
that
is a
that
very clear like dichotomy
applies.
with that as much.
Yeah,
you
there
know?
isn't as much. But definitely, when you consider that, like, Fate was stepping into Fearless's shoes for Shanghai, there's definitely some, like, replacement arc of the anime happening there as well that
Yeah.
weaves the two together. And
I
Fate
don't know.
was
I
able
think
to
I think
steal
the
the finals away.
DPS players from London were like more anime-esque than Gesture though in season 1.
Yeah. Someone
Not
like
that Gesture's a
Prophet
bad
or
pick, but I just feel like Profit or Bird Ring were both more
Cool.
integral
All
and
right.
like to like that storyline.
I like that question. We'll move on to the next one. Welcome to member, or thank you to member, something like that. We'll have to,
Thank you.
to
Well, it's
member.
welcome to member. It's
Yeah.
I mean, thank you to member. Yeah, thank you to member for
member.
question.
His member Nick Jump. Imagine team chemistry and language barriers are not an issue. What is the best team you think you could make? Only choosing players from the bottom 4 teams: Valiant, Charge, Titans, Spitfire.
Okay, I'll kick things off for us here. Okay.
All right, go for it.
I think you instantly just adopt Rio and Krong as your tank line.
Yeah, I'm agreed with you there. There's no.
I mean,
other...
I'd also probably take Kariv as my flex support.
Would you?
I mean, your choices are
Yeah,
Ripa,
your
Rolf,
choices
or
are tragic.
Yeah, it has to be Kariv, you know.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so we've got Rio, Krong, Kariv. What about main support? Is there anyone better than Mandu? We're choosing between Fire, Kelex.
I mean, you just want to get charged.
I might choose Kelex over Mandu.
Yeah, I might choose.
You'd have to
Kelex.
do this where you can't take like multiple
okay,
players
so
from the
let's-
same team. Like you
let's-
can't take more
let's-
than 2 from a team.
But the
Yeah.
challenge
that's
one.
not the question.
That's not the barrier. That's
But
not the. That's not
it
the
is part of the
challenge.
question.
Just take the charge.
They said here, challenge 1, pick 1 player from each team, but that creates a 4-player team, so that's nonsense. But if we say,
yeah, wait a minute.
let's go. You can't pick more than 2 from a team, right? Because that way we
Yeah.
can actually build it out. So we have to pick 1 player from each team, but then we can fill in the rest with
Then do it from there.
charge
Yeah.
players. All right. So who do you pick from the Valiant? Milanran, maybe.
I mean,
Crystal.
probably. You can't pick Crystal. That's challenge 2. You can't pick Crystal.
I hold
Yeah.
out and I pick Crystal.
Wait.
No.
Did you say for flex DPS?
What? No, I just mean in general. Who do you pick
Oh.
just generally from Valiant? We have to
I mean,
pick
if
1
you're
from
having
about
to
Valiant.
pick someone from
Show
Valiant,
Chain?
you
What
would
about
have to
Show
pick
Chain?
Milan.
I'm sorry, yeah.
No.
No,
No.
it simply has to be Milanran.
It simply has to be Milanran. Yeah.
Yeah, it
that's
has
the only
to
person.
be Malaran.
Okay, so with that secured, and we already know who we want from the charge, we'd probably need another DPS from Titans or Spitfire. Are we giving like Dalton the? Oh no, obviously like Sparkr. Sparker's been nuts. Sparkr and
But the thing
Shax,
is,
I would like to take both.
But the thing is, we have to play a little GM in here because remember, we still have to take 1 player from the Titans. So if we're gonna take 1 player from the Titans, and what is our decided player for charge? Is it Krong guaranteed?
Yeah, I don't want
Okay,
Chang'e.
so if we have to take 1 player from the Titans, and we're still gonna take 1 from Spitfire, right? You have to think about balancing. You have to balance this here. So if you take Sparkr, that means you're gonna have to then you have your DPS picks. That means you're gonna have to take like.
Okay, I
from
would rather
Titans.
have Sparkr and Fried than Dalton. And
What
Krong.
about Molf 1G?
But we have
Sparkr-
Krong available.
Dude, your pick from Spitfire has to be Sparkr. It has to be. You're throwing if you
Yeah.
don't. It's either
Yeah.
Sparkr or Shax. It's one of the 2.
Yeah.
I mean, would you rather have Shax or Sparkr here?
I think I'd
Sparkr.
rather give a chance to Sparkr, honestly. I think Shax is
Really?
good, but I don't think like he's as versatile as Sparkr is.
I don't know, man. Shax is really good, but I guess that's fair that he's not as versatile. So
All right, let's lock it in. We've got Milanran. We've got Sparkr.
Yeah.
We've got
Krong?
Fried.
Oh,
I
we're
think-
not going with Krong.
no, we have
I-
to get 1 from Titans.
We have
still,
to
is
get
the
1 from
problem.
Titans, so I think Fried
Let's
is the
take
best
fucking
option.
Changsig or something. I don't know.
No, we're getting fried.
let's
Why are we not getting Tiro?
What, sorry?
Why am I not getting Tiro from
Because
Titan?
we already have DPS players.
Yeah, we have Malaran.
We already have
and,
DPS.
Put him on the bench.
Sparkr.
Like, we're not leaving Krong out of this. This is
We're not leaving.
preposterous.
Well, I mean,
We have to.
He's
we
the
have-
best
we're limited
player
by the
on
challenge.
any of the 4 teams.
Yeah,
We're
you
limited.
take Changsig.
Okay.
I
Or
would
you think
rather have
Rolf.
Fry. I would rather have like fried Rio than Chongsik.
I agree.
Krong,
Fried
though.
was good when he
I
played
don't
for
think
Atlanta. He was
so.
fine. He's just limited by such a terrible team.
I am
Yeah.
so emotionally tired. I'm not gonna engage in
All
this.
right. And then
Give me
I think
Krong and Changsig.
and then
and I'll
Karivan Kellex or something to finish it out. Does that sound fair? I think that's all right.
That's-
Yeah, it's
fine.
perfect. It's
Yeah, that's
perfect.
fine.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. All right, let's move along. Virgil Tibbs. My question. It's been said that this season has been host to less rookies than ever before. Do you think this trend will continue into the coming years? In other words, have we reached a point where the veteran talent is on nearly the same level as the rookies, or are there still greater levels of talent yet to be seen in OWL? High roster turnover, he finds to be less engaging than the casual fan. Yada yada. I'd love to see fans be able to emotionally invest into the career. My take from this is that even when you look at very established esports, it normally takes like 3 years. If it's a brand new esport, it normally takes like 2-3 years to be able to actually even see who's good, like who the veterans are. I just think we've got to that point finally.
Well, I think we've gotten to that point finally, but then whenever Overwatch 2 comes out, that point starts again.
Yes.
I think you're going to see a whole crop of new players come up, and things definitely change. But for now, I think you definitely see that stabilizing.
I don't think it's going to change too much, though. I feel like even in Overwatch 2 with 5v5, it's a big difference. But I feel like we've figured out sort of what the game theory is in Overwatch and how to think about Overwatch, how to approach Overwatch, and what the different elements are. So even though we go to 5v5, I don't think there's going to be a major shift. But yeah, we're probably here now, and I'm not surprised it took 5 years because Overwatch is a really complicated game. So I'm not too surprised either.
Yeah, it does seem like better.
I have a
talent is
question
making
for
difference.
Virgil Tibbs. Why does he sound like a Skyrim character for his name? But that's but other than that,
it is a good name.
It's a good name, but it sounds like Bethesda made it in a lab. But I do think I agree with the take that we probably reached stabilization point a bit, and also just because of esports in general, it's going to be so hard to have long player careers. It's just so hard because of the conditions around games changing. You don't have forever games. You also there's the whole issue where there's still no one has found out the sustainability of keeping a roster long term, and you can't get you can't ever get to the point where you're a player that's really happy with your salary level necessarily and happy with your career advancement / stability. And on top of that, orgs can fold even, and there's so much instability comparatively.
Yeah,
still.
but we are getting to the point where you can be a fan of a player that's been in the league for more than a year or two. That is a thing.
Sure,
It's happening and
That's
will
true.
continue in the future as well. All right, what's the next question? We've got one more, I believe. Here it is, from Spade. As a longtime Dallas fan, I'm obviously very pleased with how the season is going for us so far. I am, however, worried that integration of Pine is going to disrupt the synergy that the team has been building. They obviously had plans in place pre-season with XE, but could you argue that having to adapt without hitscan has helped Dallas achieve what they have this season?
Yes.
I'm on board with this. I think that they are better now than if they had started the season with XE, because they would have just been playing a bunch of McCree and they wouldn't have figured out what they're so good at.
I thought that was a hot take, and I was going to say the same thing.
I don't think it's a hot
agree.
take, but I definitely think this could have gone the other way in which we would be talking about how much they've missed somebody. I think it's just because they've hit such a high with these different kind of compositions and things that they're running. We talk about this, and how well they've been able to achieve it. But I think looking at the roster overall and saying you still would have liked to have XE in this team, and maybe they wouldn't have gotten to the highs they would have gotten in playing different things, but I still think they would have been one of the top teams with him.
Avast, do you think it's fair for Dallas fans to be afraid of Pine being actually played in case they get worse?
I don't think there's any current reason to doubt Rush.
Yeah.
That's really it. I don't think there's been any sentiment to show that Rush can't handle it. Especially because it's only one member coming in. It's very different, Shock, right? Where you could say Krusty's very proven, but he's having to juggle a whole lot of roster moves and rotating players, which is historically hard for anyone. But when it's just one member, the amount of variables is greatly reduced. So it becomes a lot easier to make sure your team's consistent. So overall, I would say it'd be fine. I mean, you should be worried about what Pine's overall level of play is going to be, but I don't think you should be worried about if that fucks up, then I feel like it would require a huge turnaround from our perspective of Rush to suddenly be okay, well, I don't know what to do anymore. So the team is going to go through a huge disruption for a while.
Yeah. They should be fine as long as they don't force it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I pretty much agree, yeah.
Yeah, and Dallas Fuel are still massive favorites for the Summer Showdown as well when you consider the meta that they're in. So don't start to worry too much at the moment. Enjoy your time in the sun, Dallas Fuel fans. And now it comes to...
Before we get to that, I just want to say thank you to everybody that asked a question.
Yes.
And also, thank you to our new members.
To new members as well.
Wait, that's a Swedish name.
God,
Which
No,
one?
I'm thinking in hard.
The top
Something
one?
nobody has. The top one means.
Can you
don't
explain
press
how to...
that. Don't. Yep.
Yeah, how do you
That-
pronounce it? Because I have no idea.
Någonting ingen har.
Wait, what?
What's that profile picture up at the top, Kurt?
Någonting ingen har. There are three dots, so I think it continues, but Kurt could maybe verify. Anyway,
Right.
yeah, let's.
But
yeah.
you pronounce that A
Something
with a
nobody
thing
has.
over it as a or. No.
Yeah, någonting ingen har.
Någonting.
Not
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome
Shut
to
the
member.
fuck up.
Welcome to member.
Glock Singer and Josh
Fafer.
Josh Schaefer, welcome to member. Welcome to Giga member.
Giga
SI
member.
not found. Appreciate the
Yeah.
support. Thank you. That's a cool
Girthy
YouTube channel
member.
as well if you guys want to check it out. Adrian DeCentenac, David Delp, Armando Duvuli. Fucking me. I beef these every time.
Divoli.
Armando Davoli and Tomo Jono. Thank you for the members. Welcome, in fact, to member.
Welcome to member.
Welcome
Tomo
to member.
Jono is an amazing name.
remember everybody.
Is this
Armando Duvoli sounds like an Italian DJ, that produces 2000s techno music,
It does. It does. So, yeah, thank you very much for sending in those questions and hot takes. We're going to do more of that kind of stuff. And like I said, we might separate it out into its own video so that we can do and give it its proper
Yeah,
space.
because I
in which to
assume
live.
you guys have lives outside of listening to this show. So we'd like to give
Probably.
you some of that back. Yeah.
Probably. So now let's move on to the most important segment of the week. It's Bren's Player of the Week presented by T-Mobile. And this week, Bren's Player of the Week presented by T-Mobile, there were some good candidates for sure. Can you guys think of some like excellent players this week? Some like Khan, Sparkr.
No, there was a very obvious one. Oh my god!
There was some. Yeah, there was an obvious one. It's not going to a player this week. I'm pulling a Bren. I'm pulling a Bren because I know what Bren would say if he was here. He'd say, "Oh, I was ill, and people filled in for me." And that's what he values, the camaraderie from the colleagues. And that's why Bren's Players of the Week presented by T-Mobile no, not Matt. It's actually not you, actually. It's Jonathan and Custer for filling in from the desk because it's your job all the time to cast, mate. So you don't get extra credit for just filling in a game with me. That was just bants. I'm giving the credit to these guys. These guys have never casted before. It was their casting debut. They deserve the Player of the Week.
Everybody muted it when they were on. It was us. It was everybody. We all came together. We all came together.
I mean, I could have spread it out to you and Mitch as well, but I felt like that was just not real. Like, if you and Mitch had done
Does
the
Mitch
entire
need another
week,
award, really?
yeah,
Let's
if
be
you and
honest.
Mitch had
Does
done
he
the
need more
entire
awards?
week and filled in, then fair enough. But you didn't. You bailed the second day, and I had to stand up
would've
there on
done
the
it the
Overwatch
second
League
day,
without a partner.
But Johnny was like, "I want to cast. Let me cast. Please let me try."
I thought it was quite fun. I had a good time with Josh, and we got a good game too. You know,
I mean, look at this.
that was a pretty fun
That
game.
it is unusual. I mean, also,
Look at your wardrobe for this one. Your wardrobe was fire for this broadcast.
I grabbed, these are Bren's shirts. I said to Bren, have you got anything that resembles Mitch as closely as possible? Because I wanted to dress up as Mitch for the cast with Matt. And then I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll just pretend to be an Aussie when I cast with Custer as well. I'll dress up with more of Mitch's
You look like
clothes.
a fucking, you look like an NPC from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. You look like just like a fucking 64-bit NPC from.
Yeah. I'm not sure it really
was,
suited me. I wore the turtleneck for Jonathan as well to make him feel comfortable.
The show
thank
was
you
really fun
for
this
giving
week without Bren. I want Bren back, obviously, but like I thought it was pretty fun.
It was pretty fun.
Johnny.
Also, look at the brightness difference between my face and
what
yours.
the
It's like
hell
someone
is
shone
going on
the
with yours,
sun on my
Johnny?
forehead.
My setup is dependent on the sun because I have a window in front of me where the sun rises because it faces the east. And so in the mornings, when the engineers, they're like fixing my settings, all that stuff, like the sun is shining, and it's not right through the glass, but I got a draper and stuff.
Why
up
don't you
there.
close the blinds?
Yeah, where you could see yourself.
And throughout the day, as it progresses, the sun, it's up in the sky. I lose some of my brightness.
But why don't you close the blinds?
What? No,
Why
they
don't
are
you close
closed.
the blinds?
There's still some sun going through the blinds. They're not like pitch black.
What?
Your blinds might be broken, mate.
Yeah, you may want to get a
Wait.
refund on those.
No, what are you talking about? It's a shade. Are there different words here? There's
No.
like there's like a radial.
Turn the camera around.
Radial.
Let us see.
No, I'm not gonna.
You
show
mean like these blinds? These are closed, mate. There's no light coming through. It's light outside. We're
Yeah.
not recording this
Okay,
at night.
they're not shades like that. It's like a blanket, like going down.
That's a
almost.
curtain.
You have a roller shade. That's like what I have.
Yeah, it's a roller shade. Like it goes down.
Roller shades are a lot worse at blocking
It's-
light unless you get very specifically like light filtering ones. Yeah.
Fair
Even
enough.
so, even your drapes, like if the sun was facing them, there would be more brightness coming through them, through the
No,
small.
because
Oh,
Kurt
you
fixed
wouldn't,
those. He put
yeah.
bin bags behind them and stuff. So
Don't
there's
listen
no
to
light
Matt.
coming through.
The guy doesn't even know what the fuck the sun does.
You should do what when people lose a window on a car, they just get some trash bags and they glue it over. You should just get some duct tape. Get some duct tape, get some trash bags, and just put it over your window.
Yeah, make the
Black
place
it
look
out.
real homely. All right, well, that does it. I've had enough.
Jesus
We've
Christ.
been recording for far too long, ridiculous length of an episode, and we're going to let you free. If you've been listening to this on a car drive or something, I hope you've made it home by now, because we can't entertain you any longer. It's just not
Hopefully your drive
feasible.
isn't too much longer.
Yeah. Or maybe you can watch last week's episode to try and fill in. Subscribe to the channel. if you're interested in becoming a member, we very much appreciate that, and we'll have the Q&As and stuff for you in the later weeks, and we just generally appreciate the support. We'll see you next time with episode 94 or whatever the heck it is, with week 2 of the Summer Showdown.
Episode.
Yep. Bye.